Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. And in case my quick stumbling didn't get you just now, this is the Comic Book Chronicles, and I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects that you have just heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent underscore 70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
I love that beat. Yes, and this here podcast comes to you. Well, I wouldn't say brought to you by, but that's a lie. You can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
And this, you can also find this podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And tonight's show is also being brought to you by coffee, of which I am very much having a cup right now. We're not being sponsored by the particular place I got it from, so we won't talk about that, but it's a good...
I was about to say, the way I'm feeling, I could use some too.
Yeah, it's kind of one of them days. It is kind of one of them days. But as I do this, hopefully, boop, there we go. Yep. What was I gonna say? Oh, we record every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on youtube.com/theclicknation and also twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, all one word. Go over there, check us out. You know what I'm saying? You know, give a clicky, likey, smash that, all that kind of good stuff. So, folks.
Yes. Yeah, make sure to click and subscribe as well. Subscribe to notifications, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube feed. Just subscribe.
Yeah. Folks, we are going to get into some comic books, but first we are going to give a brief impression on a newly released Netflix show. Actually, so two shows just got released on Netflix. One, Masters of the Universe Revelations, and two, Transformers War for Cybertron trilogy. Kingdom just came out. Yeah. War for Cybertron trilogy Kingdom just came out. But 870 hasn't seen it, so we're going to hold off impressions of that until he gets a chance to check that out. But we're going to actually talk about Masters of the Universe Revelations really quick. Nothing spoilerific, because it just came out this past week. So just, hey. What do we like?
Yeah, just really, really broad impressions. No real need for an extra spoiler warning on top of the spoiler warning that's on this if you are listening via podcast form. Exactly. But I will say that as someone who does not have the best, the most ingrained memories of the original Masters of the Universe and the original He-Man from the early 80s. I don't have like the biggest attachment in terms of the toys. All I ever really had was, I think, a He-Man and maybe a Men-at-Arms. But it wasn't my favorite toy line. I did appreciate the cartoons. I thought they were fun. I know that my sister got into She-Ra, so that was kind of like the companion cartoon to He-Man. And so there was, at least something else that we had, that I'm sure several siblings probably had in common.
Indeed.
You know, that Masters of the Universe expanded universe. But I can tell you that as someone who doesn't have the biggest connection or the strongest connection to this, I walked in fairly cold, and I appreciated the cartoon. These first, there are 5 episodes. No spoiler there. This first, what we learn is the first half of this season. Um, I appreciated that it took a different approach. I appreciated that there was definitely some modern storytelling and modern story um, tropes or modern story elements that were being incorporated into this. So it wasn't. Um, it definitely wasn't something straight out of the early '80s. I will tell you that much. I definitely appreciated it for that. Um, some of the voices are a little jarring.
Yeah.
Uh,
We were talking about that before the show.
right. We were just talking about that. Some of the choices and some of the actors who make some of the choices in terms of the voices,
Mm-hmm.
what ends up happening is that they're recognizable. And as soon as you realize who it is, you're like, well, I don't know if that was the best choice in terms of actor and choice of voice that they decided to employ.
Right.
Like I said, we're keeping this like super broad stroke. We're not getting into like the weeds here, but that was my overall impression. I think Roddykat agrees with me on some of those points, but I'll let him tell you more.
Yeah. Like I agree about the choices of actors kind of situation, and unlike, well, actually, kind of like Agent 70. Like, yeah, I don't think I had too many of the toys, if any of them, but I definitely remember the cartoon heavily. Like I do remember seeing the toys in the store and reading the little placards, well, not the little placards, but the little backboards that they were on or whatnot, and you know, going to Burger King and getting the Happy Meal with I mean not the Happy Meal, getting the little kids meal with the glasses, and you know the stuff around the He-Man that was definitely there. Like I remember getting a He-Man glass from Burger King and a couple of little toys here and there, and never got Snake Mountain or Grayskull or any, or I don't even think I even got He-Man now that I think about it. But you know, like I said, those you know,
Yeah, I was about to say we weren't well off enough to get Snake Mountain or Castle Grayskull. I
right,
mean, that was it's not as expensive as the USS Flag, but we're getting into that area of toy acquisition.
exactly. But you know, my affinity with the show was similar to Agent 70. So you know, the voice work in the show, you know, in going into this Revelation show, it's kind of couched in that kind of nostalgia a little bit. So, and I recognize that, but also still recognize the fact that yeah, some of the choices in voice work and voice actor was kind of a little seeming a little like I get it. They got a couple of names here and then. Like don't get me wrong, like Skeletor, sure, you know, I mean Mark Hamill, you can't go wrong with that, and you didn't for the time, you know, for what happened on that end. Um, I slightly agree with the modern choices of how to handle some stuff, as Agent 7 said. However, some of the choices in writing, which is kind of more of a writing sense, kind of threw me off. Um, in that, uh, but also, oh, and I guess I should go ahead and say that. So there is a companion book that came out about 2 weeks ago from I think it was from Dark Horse, I believe it was, or something like that. It was Masters of the Universe Revelation #1, and while you don't necessarily need to read that, um, it will broaden some reference to a couple of things that happen, or at least yeah one two particular things that happen in the course of this show. So if you are a fan enough, you may want to seek that out. You know, like I said, there are certain things you gotta look for in that situation. Like, hey, you want to hear I have the power. You want to hear it. You know, you want to hear it done in a certain way, and knowing who the actor is behind that, I was like, okay, they could have got somebody better for that. You know, I don't agree with like I know there's some real stupid scuttlebutts about it's too much Tila, it's too woke. like, okay, given what the arc is, that whole thing made a whole lot of sense. Like, it made sense to do that. You know, it almost felt like they were kind of setting her up in a different way. And given what happened at the end of it, that could very well be the thing. But I can't see how that's the case given the name of the show. Which I know that's going to sound a certain way, but once you see it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And there's no even guarantee what happened at the end of the end of it is what it is, you know, because it's always a swerve in things like that. But that being said, like, yeah, I didn't have that many problems with it outside of what I just mentioned. Like, what's that? Uh-oh.
I was
You.
muted. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I was about to say.
No. That was my fault because I muted myself so that I could do something technical on my side. I was just going to say that what we have to bear in mind is that we are only halfway through. You
Right.
know, we have reached the halfway point of the story. So,
And that is, yeah, that is full knowledge of that going in. Yeah.
right. So ultimately, once you bear that in mind, there's still an entire half season, another 5 episodes presumably, of story to have unfold to see if Kevin Smith and company can stick the landing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll just add very quickly that I was very happy for Mark Bernardin, who wrote episode 3 and got one of his. It was a quirky line that I kind of thought, he made mention of it in social media
Mm-hmm.
and on the Fat Man Beyond podcast, that there was a line that he did not expect would stay in the final script and in the final show, but it ended up making the final cut. And when I heard it, it sounded so offbeat and so, maybe not random. Random's not the right word. Definitely offbeat, I think, is the best way to describe it. And
Mm-hmm.
when I heard it, and when I heard it's a Skeletor line, so that's a big hint. When I heard Mark Hamill as Skeletor, who unfortunately does sound a little too much like the Joker,
Yeah.
um, but we'll get to that in a second. When I heard that, I felt very good for Mark Bernardin because, that's like one of those weird lines that, it's like an Easter egg for him, but it turns into an Easter egg for the rest of us as well. But I guess
Well,
getting back to what,
assuming I'm about to say, assuming you watched that show. I mean, you watched the show that you're referencing to know that. I guess also.
oh, absolutely. It's episode 3.
No. Meaning Fat Man Beyond or what he was on.
Oh, no, yeah, no, but he also put it on social media.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He did both. He
Gotcha.
did both. He mentioned it. He mentioned it in the previews on Fat Man Beyond. Like when I say previews, during episodes of Fat Man Beyond in the lead up to the release of Masters of the Universe,
Sure.
as well as his own personal social media. So he made note of it and put that out there. And when we all finally heard the line, we were like, oh, okay, that's pretty fun. But getting to what I think you bumped on as well was Mark Hamill's choices as Skeletor and what the inflection and the voice that he tried to put into the character.
I mean, I felt like going into it, I expected as much, so I didn't really bump on that much. Like, I'm not saying because Mark Hamill has range, so I'm not saying that he couldn't have done anything different. But like I said, I really wasn't expecting him. Like, I wasn't really expecting him to go full Skeletor either, because I feel like he could probably do a fairly decent Skeletor, classic Skeletor, I should say. But yeah, I did notice, especially going into that last episode. But I don't know the line that you were talking about, by the way, that Mark Bernardin wrote. But I know, but that kind of brings me to some stuff that I did remember. So, like I said, with some of the writing was that, like, yeah, okay, it's a kid's show and it's supposed to be kind of punny here and there, and it was like, really. Some of the puns that they kind of went for, and like, oh, you can, like, there's some real obvious puns that they made. That's like, you could have just left some of that stuff out, really. Like, even one guy recognized it as because like one character was like said the line was like, "What? We were all thinking it," But it's like, yeah, okay,
Right.
you know. Which, me saying that you probably know what I'm talking about. I'm assuming.
Probably it's been it's been roughly a week since I watched it, a little bit
Right.
less, so my memory is a little hazy at this point
Right. And I
regarding
just
all the
watched it.
details.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of laughed at some of the things that I do remember. I laugh now at some of the things that I do remember, like there is a brief character moment that is straight out of the Fellowship of the Ring.
Mm.
Like I said, not trying to spoil it. Mild spoilers at most here.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely I felt like saying, "Run! Oh no, fly, you fools!" Right after.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I know it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Which,
Once I dropped that hint, that solidified what I was referencing.
Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, and actually, you know what? That's actually bringing something that's like, so not to go into, like, so we could just kind of end it off after this, after we mentioned, but yeah, there were some choices of things that some actions that happened, that was like, huh. I mean, I get it, sure, but at the same time, it's like, oh, that's the thing that happened. Okay.
What was your favorite thing so far? It could be acting, it could be choices, it could be story elements, whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I can't say acting.
I'll tell you what my
Go for it.
favorite is, and it's actually acting.
Okay.
Cersei Lannister as Evil Lynn.
Yes. Yes.
That was phenomenal. I was like, oh my goodness, Lena Headey.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can recognize her voice, but it's still not Cersei Lannister.
Right.
It's not Queen Gorgo, I think from 300.
Right.
I think that was her character's name.
Right.
But the point is, it's recognizably Lena Headey, and I'm like, wow, that was spot on. Good job, guys.
Right.
With that casting and her choices in that role.
Right. So in that, I was like, okay, there was some little bit of predictability going on here in a couple of cases, and that was one of them. Not to be spoiler, not to spoiler into that, but I already know what I'm talking about with that.
Oh, you mean in terms of the story element?
Yes.
Yes.
But I was like, okay, but I like where they was kind of going with that, and actually that kind of brings back into something else that I didn't necessarily bumped on, but I thought was kind of funny. So in the title, in the not the title treatment, but in the first episode, and this is not so much of a spoiler because it's kind of right up front, where you get what normally would be the theme song and the opening theme song and the images they're in. I was like, whoever made up that sequence clearly wanted to be like, you know what? If this was the 80s, this was badass. This is what I would have wanted, because there's a shot of Skeletor and Evil Lynn, which never shows up again. But I was like, oh yeah, this is some out of the 80s kids' dream sequence, because it was like, okay, if you had that on somebody's album cover, like, yeah, I could totally see it, some 80s album cover. Right. And there was a little bit of that coming up, which it's Kevin Smith's baby, so you kind of expect some of that to be the case. But that was kind of funny to see. I was like, really? Okay, sure, that was a choice. That being said, though, favorite moment, I'm not sure if I can really pick one out, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything favorite. It doesn't have to necessarily be a moment in the show. But
right.
I'll tell you what continually disappoints me about these revival cartoons. These cartoons that have revived 80s properties, and it continuously disappoints me. It's the lack of the catchy theme song, which was like, to me, at least half of the appeal, because I still remember the He-Man theme song. He-Man, dun, 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 dun. It's like, it's overly dramatic, it's bombastic, but that's what was so fun about it.
Right.
And none of these shows, I'll throw Transformers into the mix. I'll throw the rebooted Voltron into the mix. None of their scores, none of their theme songs are all that catchy, and it's a shame.
If they have one at all.
Right. That's an excellent point. If they even have one, they're not catchy at all. They're just not. And it's a shame because if we were doing like flashcards or like one of those iPhone games, those mobile games where like the name popped up and you had to sing the song. If it said Voltron theme song, right? Let's say if it was like a cartoon theme song contest and it said Voltron, you think I wouldn't be able to sing that now? Of course I could. Not just even considering I literally played a snippet of it, during what we call our pre-show kind of like discussion.
Right.
I could sing that now, hum it at least. So it's a shame that these reboots, these revivals of these 80s cartoon properties don't have I don't know if it's a budget thing or if they just don't see the need for it. They don't have these either similarly catchy theme songs or just something remastered or remixed from the old version.
Right. I feel part of it is like I kind of I've wondered about this for a couple of years now because it's like I wonder it's because people's attention spans are already short as it is, so just go ahead and get right into it, and by by association, hey, there's more time for a story, whatever the case may be, or at least that's supposedly the justification of it, but I doubt it. I mean, the shorter attention span side I can kind of see more than, hey, we got more time to story. Plus, it's on, especially if it's on stuff like, Netflix streaming services or whatnot. I guess that could be a justification they could make. Yeah, but I don't know. It kind of bumps me out because like you, yeah, I miss it. It's like it's like every show that I've grown up with, live action, animated, whatever, had a catchy theme song or something recognizable as a theme song. Like the closest we got right now, kind of like Mandalorian, because you kind of know,
you could hum it. Yeah, you could hum it. You would recognize it if you if someone was humming it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example, but it's a shame.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
Very much so. But that being said, folks, like I said, we're gonna wrapping this up. Hey, give it a chance, watch it. Watch Masters of the Universe Revelations. It's only the first half, like Agent 7 said earlier, so we still got another half to go. Don't know when that other half is gonna come out. If you even have any kind of passing fondness for these, they definitely, in a way, like it's been said, is like this is supposed to be they directly said it's supposed to be a sequel to the 80s show. I still don't see that, honestly. I really don't. It feels still more like a reboot in a way than a sequel. But from the first episode, you kind of get the sense that they tried to kind of capture the feel of it, especially like from the toy standpoint of it, because you can tell that in the opening beats of the first episode, and even going into the first couple of episodes, it's like, okay, hey, this thing shows up, and references to characters and toys that show up and all that kind of good mess, and that sort of thing. And like I said, the companion book, if you have any interest in the source material, or in not the source material, but in this, you may want to pick that up, because it does give you a little bit of extra information for something, without going into anything. So that being said, folks, we're going to go into talking about some comic books. We're going to start off with Fantastic Four number 34.
Fantastic Four number 34 is written by Dan Slott with art by R.B. Silva, colors by Jesus Abertov, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, our favorite Paisan. So, who letters? This is the final chapter of the Bride of Doom storyline, titled The Sacred Vow of Victor Von Doom. And boy, does he live up to that in this. This is the immediate aftermath of Victor Von Doom finding out about the tryst between Victorious and one Johnny Storm just prior to Victor popping the question on Victorious. You know, it's not like they were dating at the time, but he just proposed. You know, he proposed just after they consummated their particular relationship, and it was a you know, obviously a bit of unfortunate timing as Dan Slott decided to make it, and all of that decided to play out here in this issue, and it was quite a sight to see Victor really, in a sense, put the hammer down.
Yeah. So, you know, some would argue, some would say that Victor has a propensity to be dramatic, overact to things. Now, granted, you know, in the real world situation, you know, given what happened, the revelation that happened in last issue, in real life, some people kind of have a similar would probably want to react in a similar action. Let's just say to the revelation that comes out, as Agent 70 said, or at least alluded to. So, you know, Victor's reaction, not outside the realm of possibility. I mean, not outside the realm for him, much less any, you know, I don't want to say normal person, but that's sometimes that's not necessarily normal to, you know, to at a certain. I mean, it is normal, but yeah, at a certain point it gets a little extra. But that being said,
he's Doctor Doom.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as extra.
Well, I mean, his whole life is kind of extra. Let's be honest. But that being said, though, it's like, you know what? I feel like somebody could pick up this book, read that, like, yeah, that's kind of how it feels. You kind of want to, like, yeah, that's kind of how that could feel if you kind of had all of that money and power and intelligence. Like, yeah, there you go. But yeah, it was. I enjoyed this read. I was waiting for this issue to come out because I was like, okay, given what happened after I finally reading last issue, I was like, okay, I gotta see how this how this plays out, and it kind of plays out how you expected it was, and being slightly spoiled by solicits and news, you knew something was going to happen. They took. Luckily, it was good care. Well, maybe I didn't read enough of the solicits or something, but because, you know, the most they said was like, somebody, you know, the life of one Fantastic Four member is going to change, and at a certain point, you was like, wait, when in reading this, like, wait, are they really going to do that to him again? And they didn't. But they did. They did a thing that's like, huh? Now let's see how this is going to kind of play out. I honestly expected a side character to kind of come back into play, and something happens with that for some reason. But I think that's still probably on the table now that I'm thinking about it. But with given what we did get in this issue, it was like, yeah, that was a lot, and it was good, and you should definitely check this out. Like, I've been just like Agent 7, I've been enjoying Slott's run of Fantastic Four, and it's for stuff like this because it kind of was like, okay, here's the thing that happens, but wait, we're just gonna take it over here. You know, and granted, this is what happens in this book is not outside the realm of something that would have happened or has happened in the past with Fantastic Four. Like, an event happens, something happens to a character that kind of changes them a little bit, or
Right.
significantly for who knows how long.
Yeah. And specifically dealing with Doom as well, it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you ever read the Mark Waid, Mike Wieringo run on the Fantastic Four.
Probably.
I want to say it was like early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
but
probably not then.
Yeah, you might have been out of comics at that point.
Yeah.
But definitely reminiscent of that run. You know, with something with Doom kind of taking some measure of vengeance upon a member of the FF because of something, because of kind of interfering with his plans and whatnot. I just wanted to say before we moved on that this book benefits from just some amazing work by R.B. Silva on art.
Yes.
There's a million cool things going on. Jesus Aburtov kills it on colors in this. It's a perfect complement. There's obviously a lot of fire going on because of one element of the story, but there's just lots of great colors left and right. And I can't imagine what this would look like in old-fashioned coloring. This is purely, a delight to look at with digital coloring, the way it's rendered, and seeing the different hues and the different shades and the different color palette that he's using for, even though it's all earthbound stuff, it looks very much cosmic level power, because part of it is cosmic level power without spoiling too much.
Yep.
So, I give the art team a ton of credit on this book, and this issue wraps with one member of the FF, at least for now, changed in a big way, and also leaves Victorious in a different place. Not married, but definitely in a different place than she was at the beginning of this storyline, or even at or from, she's in a different place from where we met her not all that long ago, to be honest, in the pages of Fantastic Four.
Arguably, it's kind of back where she started, I would say, but under the cover of, hey, what has happened in the last few issues. If you think about it from a certain point of view, because especially how she came into this, and how she got to where she was prior to this, it's like, yeah, she kind of got reset to that status in a way.
Right, certain change in her look, and it's the change in her look that I'm stressing.
Yes,
because that is emblematic. It reflects and is a symbol of coming a little bit further, stepping a little bit further into, I guess, what we thought she would be when she was first introduced, but she's definitely taken a couple steps since then, and that's what this change in look symbolizes. So I definitely realized that significance when I saw that. I was like, oh, that's not something I ever thought I would see.
Yeah.
Oh, not in the sense that I ever thought that this would happen to Victorious, but just ever in the sense of reading stories about Doctor Doom for what seems like forever for me. But, I never thought I would see the day. It's one of those things.
I feel like at some point we probably have seen a similar situation before, but, well, maybe not the same. Obviously not the same situation, but I feel like someone close to Doom kind of did a similar thing for a halfway similar reason. I don't know, but probably not. Who does know? Where's Kristoff, by the way? Either way, so yeah, that was Fantastic Four's 34. And the only other thing I'm saying in passing, like, it seems that Doom has learned from that last broadcast.
Exactly. He's not only is he much more in control of the broadcast, he's also definitely in the purveyor of fake news realm.
Yes. Which, not surprised there, because that's kind of, has been his MO in his country for the longest time. So, not surprised there. It's just that he got caught out there the last time, and now he's like, oh, it's just like when network TV has a nip slipper or something like that. It's like, oh, well, we got to switch it up now to keep that from happening again, and he pretty much did the same thing.
Pretty much. All right, so we are, I think, done with Fantastic Four number 34. I will just say that the next issue is an anniversary issue celebrating 60 years, 60 years of the Fantastic Four.
Yep, and we will have a little bit more on that in the news section, actually. So we're going to move on to S.W.O.R.D. number 7.
All righty, just give me a moment to advance. Actually, I'm going to scroll down to Roddykat's notes to uh, get the creative team here. It's written by Al Ewing, uh, with art by Stefano Caselli, and color art by Proto Bunkers, Fair Cifuentes Sujo.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm like, I don't know if there's typos in there.
No, there is. I forgot that I was typing it up, and I totally forgot to put the artist. Hang on a second. I will.
No, Stefano Caselli, I presume, is the artist. So because I recognize the name, but this is definitely a small faux pas on my part, folks, because got a little bit of a late start on trying to type out my own notes on this because it's been a long day, but ultimately I will make sure to get.
It is confirmed.
Yeah, and VC's Ariana Mar as the letterer, so everything else was correct.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and we'll let Roddykat lead with this one.
Okay. Well, so yeah, guess what, folks? Last Annihilation is definitely in effect as of this. So this is the second part of, I believe it's the second part of Last Annihilation coming out of last week's Guardian book.
Correct.
And yeah, things are not going well for folks. Things are they're in the thick of things. Let's just say. So we have the mindless ones attacking on different fronts.
It's a direct continuation of the story in Guardian. So if you walk into the pages of S.W.O.R.D, not knowing what's going on or not recognizing what's going on, you should definitely check out last week's Guardians of the Galaxy issue.
Right. I like Agent 70 had enjoyed this issue because of a couple of things that happened, or one particular thing that happened. But so yeah, the Hulklings is fighting on all fronts. They had to release Captain Glory because you knew that was going to happen at some point. We get a call back to the end of Empire in here.
Yes.
Which I was like, oh, that makes sense. Al Ewing wrote this, and it was a direct tie. So it was like, yeah, we knew it was going to come back up at some point. So not surprised there, but it's like, okay, and here it is. But we get pretty much get an update on how things are going on all fronts with Dormammu's attack on in space. Well, we get visual and some some spoken to, because obviously if you read Guardians, you kind of see another side of that, and you kind of see what's going on here. So anyway, Hulkling has to kind of call out, kind of bring back Captain Glory into the front, and tries to shore up defenses and try to get help from Earth, which or try to warn Earth. But as we come to find out, some things are not as it seems on one side of it, because thanks to one Abigail Brand, who comes in to help.
I was gonna say it basically gets Hulkling caught up on the most recent developments in Alpha Flight.
Yes.
Most recent developments in Gamma Flight too. So
right, but also it was like, apparently Brand is doing some beast level machinations. Per what had been going on in X-Force, in a way. So that's kind of interesting. And on the other side of that, we get a nice conversation. I say nice loosely, between Storm and Doctor Doom, whom yes, we just talked about in Fantastic Four. So we know he's in a couple of different places, but he's still on Arakko, having dinner with Storm.
Right. This is clearly set after the events of this week's issue of Fantastic Four.
Right.
And if you recall, Doom was in the pages of Fantastic Four setting up his galactic travels.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously having being connected to the current Guardians of the Galaxy team and book.
Right.
So no big surprise here, especially in the wake of the Hellfire Gala. and the
But
creation of Planet Araco.
right.
So
But on that front, we get a direct reference to this week's Fantastic Four in the probably the best way possible.
yes, 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 it was fortuitous, definitely fortuitous that I read this issue after I read this week's issue of Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. Because it was like, yeah, because you wouldn't have thought there would have been that direct tied to it, but there it was. There was also apparently a reference in that conversation to, and I looked this up, one Uncanny X-Men 145, I believe.
Yeah,
Because I was like, wait, did that thing that happened? Then I had to happen to do some research on it. I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah, okay, that was a thing.
yeah. I was about to say you can recognize. It's a pretty memorable cover.
Mm-hmm.
That the issue that he's referring to, the story that he's referring that they're both referring to here in their conversation.
Right. So so that was a pretty good turn of events on that one. But for the most part, it's the conversation. Doom apparently knows more about Mysterio than most people in the world knows, apparently. And I don't know, he obviously is Doctor Doom, so he has some kind of game that kind of doesn't seemingly go the way he would have liked it to in the outside of this.
Right.
But like I said, this issue was pretty great for what was going on in it. Like I said, it's kind of one of those almost like dark metal chapters in a way, because like I said, things are not going well for folks defending themselves against Dormammu's attack at this point. Like I said, the callback to Empire. Apparently, yeah, there was a reference to the Wanda situation, but not really.
I liked how it was specifically Agent Brand that
Yes.
deflected any further inquiry into it,
Mm-hmm.
and just maintained some of the suspense.
Right.
So I like that. It was definitely well played.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and how she was deflecting a couple of statements that was or queries that the Hulkling had at that point. So yeah, that's what, and which like I said brings into the beast-like machinations that I was talking about earlier. So I was like, okay, we have to see what's going to happen with all of that. We know where we see what was to be gained from that. Or what will be gained from that, given the data page, or what they were trying to gain from that. So, in some ways it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, all right, you're just using an event for your own gain, kind of situation was interesting. But yeah, definitely check this out if you are caught up on the last Annihilation stuff, which is like, again, just kind of just started like last week or two.
Yeah, it's not too late to jump into it, and it's interesting to see how Al Ewing is looking to expand the reach of the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense that S.W.O.R.D, and especially with the creation of Planet Araco, and the whole stance that the X-Men and Krakoa are taking, it makes sense that they would become a much more powerful player
Mm-hmm.
in galactic, on the galactic stage, so that, and I'll finish with this before we move on to the next book, but it's acknowledged that Marvel has really only had the bandwidth. The fans have only had the bandwidth to maybe support a couple of cosmic space books at a time. Very often, it's usually one or two at most. So at this time, we don't have a Silver Surfer book. At this time, we don't have a Quasar book. We don't have a Nova book. What we do have is a Guardians book. So it's good to see that S.W.O.R.D comes at the whole space / cosmic stuff from a different perspective, namely the mutant perspective, because of the developments that happened during the Hellfire Gala. So, it's kind of cool that they've been able to develop this in like a really organic way possible, not just having an X-Men team in space.
Right, which has happened in the past. So it's not unlike the fact that the X-Men or some very, some group has not been in the space before. But yeah, to have them on this bigger stage in galactic politics, or try to get them on this bigger stage in galactic politics, is is interesting to say the least. Um, I don't know whether I could say it was out of the ordinary, because, like I said, they've had dealings with space, but you never would associate them directly with a lot of. I mean, there's in a certain cases
Just the
direct
Shi'ar
ties.
stuff. Yeah, just Shi'ar
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah, they're meddling in Shi'ar stuff more so than in like the overall galactic political arena.
But
So
it is an attempt to get them on a bigger
yeah,
galactic standing than they have
exactly. You know, because the Avengers, like it or not, after Infinity, even though all the goodwill, I've complained about this before,
been.
all the goodwill garnered by the Avengers during Infinity is just gone. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, quickly.
Like,
Yes.
yeah, like seriously, like they literally saved the entire universe from the builders, and then struck back at Thanos, and now everyone's now the rest of the Galactic Empire is like, all right, screw you, Earth, you're always a big headache,
Right. Which has been a thing every now and then classically. It's like, hey, the Earth, or at least, yeah, no, I'd say that. Yeah, like that's kind of been a thing. Like, oh, the Earth's gotta, is going to be a problem, or is a problem, so we got to do something about it.
Right.
But yeah, that being said, we can move on to, Black Widow, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah. Black Widow #9.
All right. It is written by Kelly Thompson, with pencils by Elena Casagrande and Rafael de la Torre, inks by Elisabetta D'Amico and Rafael de la Torre, colors by Jordi Belair, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So we find ourselves dropped right into the action as we left it in the previous issue with just give me a second while I get to this book, with Yelena Belova being in distress. Black Widow is quickly surrounded by minions of the Hux of Hux advisors, and it's this is the Apogee hideout that they've tried to break into, and Yelena Belova is, as I said, in distress, and it's up to Natasha to get her out of it. And there's a couple of things in this issue reminiscent of the Black Widow movie that just dropped. One is actually, and it's funny that this is mild spoilers. Actually, no, not. Yeah, it's mild spoilers for the Black Widow movie. So if you have made it this far and you are listening to this and you still have not watched Black Widow, this is a truly mild, minor spoiler, but it's a spoiler nonetheless. You actually get not a taser effect from the Widow's bite or the Widow's sting, but an actual, like, pew pew effect from the Widow's bite / Widow's sting in the Black Widow movie, more so than you've ever seen in any of the MCU offerings.
Right.
And you get a little bit of that here in this issue. I specifically recall seeing, they're actually letting her use the Widow's sting or the Widow's bite much more so than just like a close-up taser shot.
Right. I feel like,
which is how they depicted it in like the first Avengers movie.
Right.
Or even in the second Iron Man movie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I feel like it was, at least the way in this issue was being, it felt like it was being used, because Widow's got a new suit, and it was kind of apparently a function of her new suit and new variation of her bite or Widow sting. That it feels more like what if you've played any game in recent history with Iron Man in it. It kind of feels like a move from him. Weirdly enough, because it's like, because the way, especially the way you see it seen in the particular page, it feels like I was like, oh no, this is just a laser, like Agent 70 said, but it was just being used in a very specific sweeping manner,
Right.
and that's why it's like, wow, that does definitely seem like something different from like Agent 70 said, different from the way it's normally being used, um, and like I said, more like what Iron Man would do. So that part right there was kind of interesting. But also with the other illusion that Agent 70 was had mentioning or was about to mention probably was the fact that and matter of fact he did say this prior to the show, but not but you definitely see some cross pollination between how she's being written here and how Yelena's being portrayed in the movie, which
Oh yes.
granted, which granted kind of also comes back from the because they Yelena kind of has been like this for a few years now,
But
um,
not to this extent.
exactly. But not this close. Like if you watch the movie and read this issue, you'd be like, yeah, that's definitely a direct parallel to that. But
Definitely.
not that big of a surprise given how like the the MCU has there's been things in the MCU that have come back to the books,
Right.
and in small doses, vice versa. Like you could say the Tony Stark, the MCU version of Tony Stark ended up being the way he was kind of how he's been portrayed in the books as of the last 10 or so years. Because he was not classical like that. He was definitely not, Robert Downey Jr., but they kind
Right.
of are around the same time. In this case, like I said, Yelena's in a similar vein, but well, no, there's no but. It's kind of in a similar
I was
vein,
about to say
just
there's no
more,
but.
yeah, just more,
Yeah.
just definitely more pointed in this. Like you could definitely say, it's like, well, clearly if they hadn't seen the script of the movie, or some one didn't play into the other, or vice versa, then yeah, you couldn't tell me. There's no way you could tell me. I'm pretty sure there's probably a credit to Kelly Thompson and crew. I feel like if you go back and watch the credits in the movies, those are Kelly Thompson and crew credited in there somewhere. Or I guess more to the point of the beginnings of whoever wrote Yelena like this.
Right. I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I definitely enjoyed it because it gives it gives the story a contrast. It gives it gives both of them foils to one another.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Natasha is the Black Widow that we've kind of known for a long time. We have Yelena being the younger the playing the younger sibling role with questioning more, kind of approaching things with a different sense of humor
Mm-hmm.
than Natasha would. So it was definitely, it's a story choice that obviously they made for a reason, for maybe a slightly different reason in the MCU,
Right.
but I can see why it would be a good choice in a comic book featuring these two characters.
Right.
I honestly wanted to go back, and I didn't have time tonight, but I'd like to over the next however long between this issue and next. I'd like to try to go back and check out, maybe her first couple of appearances in Marvel Knights. I know that she do some stuff in Dark Reign. I got to check out all of her appearances and see how the character of Yelena Belova has evolved, and see when they started to kind of give her this kind of dry wit
Mm-hmm.
characterization,
Right.
and see how that's developed over time.
Right. And yeah, probably Dark, because I feel like there's been in even in this volume of Black Widow, I feel like there was a mention to Dark Reign somewhere, but I may be mistaken on that.
Right. So, it's just a matter of looking up all of her appearances and seeing, using, my own collection or the handy dandy Marvel Unlimited. Not that we're getting paid to sponsor it, or,
Exactly.
well, not that they're paying for this free ad every time we mention it, but um, at the end of the day, it's a great resource and a tool for podcasters like us who are constantly looking for reference and factual reference to back up our to back up what we say. So ultimately, you know, I'm looking forward to this particular dive into Marvel history just to check up on this character who, you know, was introduced so long ago, but has really only developed in recent times.
Right. And yeah, and Marvel Unlimited is a resource. I mean, even if you're a Marvel fan, it's a really great resource. Again, no plug. I mean, no sponsorships or anything going on here. We're just saying it's good. It's a good resource. So yeah, yeah. That being said, and obviously we knew going into this, like, yeah, the one of the reasons why Blackwood even has a book right now is because there was a movie coming out. We can't sit here and say that that's not any part of this at all. Whether she was deserving of a book, I some would argue yes. Some would argue no. But I like the fact that is here nonetheless, and it's been pretty good so far. And I don't know. I would like to have hoped at some point there would have been, like, even if the movie wasn't a thing, that there would be something for her, for this character, and a lot of the stuff would have played out a similar way if it wasn't for the fact that the MCU was around. But it is a thing, and unfortunately, it is a driving factor for Marvel, even if they don't say as much. But that being said, yeah, Black Widow #9 ends up being a pretty good book. Like I said, the thing with the suit, what was a thing, and then they end up her, Natasha, Yelena, and Anya, Spider-Girl, end up going after Apogee Direct, and which leads them to a confrontation at the end of the book, while they have another plan going in action at the same time, and that we will see what happens when in that confrontation in the next issue. So with that, we can move on to maybe one more book before we get into rapid fire.
Sure.
In fact, I think the only other book that we have, we got two books in common. So let's go Black Cat. It's a favorite of ours usually.
Sure. All right, Black Cat #8 is written by Jed MacKay with art by C.F. Villa, color art by Brian Reber, and letters by Ferran Delgado. So this is the first part of the Infinity Score story, which is a part of the tale that's being told involving the new I wouldn't say wielders of the Infinity Stones / gems, but rather the new hosts of these gems, as it were.
Okay.
Because I don't think they're wielding them as you would, I guess, conceive of it, like Dr. Spectrum from the Squadron Supreme.
Right. It's more like MCU Wanda, where their powers kind of manifest from said.
Right, but in the sense that they've become part, that the stone / gem has become part of them.
Right.
As opposed to, just imbuing like Carol Danvers / Captain Marvel in the MCU. That's another character that's bathed in the energy of one of the Infinity Gems or stones in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, that is a development from the last couple of years that Marvel is now looking to tell stories with, and what they've been doing is telling some of these stories as parts of I guess a recent annual. It's still continuing, actually, a recent annual. I guess recent is the wrong word. Current is really the word. A current set of annuals that are crossing over into kind of a mini event. They have a common theme of infinite destinies, as it were, and they all have, at the very least, if not Infinity Gem carriers or hosts as part of the main story. They include part of a long-running backup story that involves one Nick Fury Jr. And it's that character that comes into play in this issue, as it seems that Felicia is on the hunt for a particular score, and it's the score that was stashed away by one Nick Fury Jr. and for everyone's safety, and ultimately Felicia Hardy's on the prowl, every pun intended, to steal this particular thing. I'm being as vague as possible to not spoil it, but to steal this thing that Nick Fury Jr. has stashed away, and the two come to blows over it because Nick Fury Jr., much like his namesake, is pretty good at his job, and and can has lots of backup plans and fail safes in place to try to defeat people who are trying to steal from him. But ultimately, Felicia does get away with it, and we find in the end, not that it doesn't really matter. Shout out to Linkin Park, but we find out in the end that what Nick Fury Jr. was keeping in storage was something that we last saw towards the end of the King in Black event.
So here's a question on that. Is that did this asset not show up in the Infinite? Well, so I guess that's two questions. Did this asset not come into play in this Infinite Destinies thing? Because I feel like they did, but I don't know because I haven't read them. And also, Felicia was definitely a part of
right.
that.
I think it was the Spidey annual.
Right.
I think it was the Spidey annual, which I didn't read, although I remember the cover. So you're right. Maybe I'm mistaken, but in terms of the state that we find this character in, I'm wondering if it didn't happen before then. Like I said, like post King in Black.
I don't know. I kind of maybe, but I kind of want to. Like I said, I've not read any of the Infinite Destiny stuff, so I kind of feel like it might have come at the end of that than not. But again, you might be more right than I am because, and I hadn't read King in Black at all, so I don't know anything about what happened there. But it kind of felt like this was in the, and Black Cat also had an annual in this Infinite Destiny thing, so I was thinking it might have been coming from that. Or some of this has been kind of coming from that, but I don't know if that's the case or not. I need to catch up with those things to see if they're just to kind of familiarize myself with what's going on in that, because I figure like if that's going to be a thing that's going to play into this book, I might want to. But that being said, did you happen to read Nick Fury Jr. In a certain way? Did he happen to come off in a certain way to you, familiar? Just out of curiosity. And it could be just me, and maybe I was projecting it, but I don't know.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But you can let me in on the little secret.
So it felt like they were definitely going a more Samuel Jackson tone, MCU Nick Fury tone with the way they had Fury Jr. speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that is the direct parallel to this because of how they've been kind of shaping this character in the first place. So that's not surprisingly. But it kind of felt and maybe like I said, it could be just me projecting it, but it felt like McKay was kind of writing this character in a similar vein as Samuel Jackson's Fury, which was kind of amusing in itself.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is I could sense that, but that's generally been my experience with the Nick Fury Jr. character anyway, is that, while we're not getting the, say what again, a bit of dialogue, say what one more goddamn time,
Right.
We're not getting that, but we're definitely getting at least a little bit of a cadence when there's opportunity for it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely get that sense now that I look back on the issue and kind of reread some of the dialogue, but yeah, I maybe more so here than in other places.
Exactly.
I'd be inclined to agree that I guess in this issue more so than maybe other places we've seen Nick Fury Jr. that the dialogue is written more with the voice of Samuel L. Jackson in mind.
Right. Yeah, because definitely, yeah, even in coming from his inception into becoming Nick Fury Jr. and all that, and it never felt as overt as it does in tone here,
Right.
than too many other places that where I've read this character. Like, yeah, definitely, because of the MCU and because of the Ultimate Universe and where the MCU springs from and all of that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, you definitely get the look and everything, or somewhat of, you get the look and all that kind of good stuff. But like I said, the tone of the character's voice, it was more apparent here, and I'm going to assume that was a potential. I mean, that was definitely intentional. But I don't know. Like I said, it could have just me projecting that. So. But regardless, it was a pretty good issue. The banter between Nick Fury Jr. and Felicia was pretty good. It was a good bit of action going on in here, and like I said, I was thinking that the cover was kind of spoiling something, and I guess in a way it kind of was in a way, but given that I had not read Infinite Destinies and did not know much about. I still actually don't know much about the exit that was obtained. You know, outside of a little bit of his and theirs, like what's the end goal here? I guess is the big thing, because obviously we know Felicia's going for bigger and better scores. With each passing arc. This is definitely a big score. Now, what she's going to do with it, we don't know. But I am looking forward to finding out. That being said, I guess we can, unless you got another book that you really want to pop out there, we can go to rapid fire.
No. I will spin it up. So it's a rapid fire time, people.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Got time to duck. Rapid fire, folks.
Hold on. I didn't even spin it.
Oh.
I was about to say I got I got Blaine in, but I did not get the actual minigun.
Yeah, I might have to maybe cut that together. But yeah, rapid fire, folks. You want to go?
Sure. I mean, we still have at least one book,
yes,
if not two, in common. So I will start with Amazing Spider-Man number 71. It's written by Nick Spencer with art by Federico Vicentini and Federico Sabatini. My goodness, it's I feel like we're if you're a tennis fan, there's a bunch of Italian and Argentinian players with these names. So I feel like we're just reading off the latest contestants at the French Open or Wimbledon or something. Colors are by Alex Sinclair, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So in this issue, we actually get, I guess, what would amount to a retcon if it really wasn't just Spencer tying parts of his story together. His story has been going on for the better part of 3+ years, and it stands to reason that a lot of the early ground laying that he was putting in terms of the story is finally starting to come back to us now. And that is with specific regards to some of the things that Mary Jane undertook to do during this arc, or during this overall story arc, this the Spencer run, where she decided to turn back to therapy to get some help, and namely that kind of anonymous group of people who were significant others of superheroes or connected to superheroes that Edwin Jarvis was a member of. And related to that, MJ decided to get some additional therapy from another source, and it's that source that we find out is directly related to all of the things that have happened to MJ's career since Spencer's run started, namely her connection to Mysterio. And I'm forever going to be saying it that way after the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon. Put that in my head. We get some developments here with Kindred and Harry Osborn. That stuff is continuously playing in the background as Carly Cooper and Harry Osborn are being held by Kindred, and we're going to see how that particular duo affects the story going forward. Ultimately, this issue is really about Mysterio recounting how he's been connected to MJ and by extension Spider-Man and Peter Parker's life since the beginning of this of Spencer's run, and how they're all, Mysterio and Kindred are all intertwined, like their actions are all intertwined, ever since this run started. And while that's evident from, if you think back on early issues, it's kind of fun to see it all come back full circle. There are also some great editorial blurbs in here about see such and such issue, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. So because Mysterio has had quite a bit of things happen to him, including dying over the last 20 years. So we do cover all of those bases here in this issue, and we end on a cliffhanger with Kindred and MJ coming face to face. Next up is Roddykat's going to cover that. Beta Ray Bill number 5. So this is written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson. I will get the other credits up in a second as soon as I pull the book up. Daniel Warren Johnson, as I said, is writer and artist. Mike Spicer is the color artist, and VC's Joe Sabino, with an assist from Daniel Warren Johnson, are the letterers. So if you haven't been keeping up with Beta Ray Bill, this particular miniseries has served to launch him into a different direction from where he was, from where he came from during some brief guest appearances in the current Thor series. And the events of the current Thor series were reflected, the events surrounding Beta Ray Bill were reflected in this series as Beta Ray Bill was on the search for a new weapon, without spoiling everything that happened during the most recent Thor series to what happened to Bill. I will say that he was on the search for a way to possibly restore Stormbreaker, but it turns out in this issue that he has rearmed, quite literally, and it's kind of curious. Anyone who has gone back and anyone who has read some of the older Thor issues involving the main antagonist here in this story is kind of, I don't know, dumbstruck by what happens here in this issue and what rules have been put forth surrounding the Twilight Sword, and that's it's definitely something to have to digest. There's definitely a lot to digest here, and I'm still at the end of this issue kind of scratching my head and trying to figure out how this all fits together. I'm wondering if maybe I need to reread the series and maybe read some of the letters, the letter columns at the back, to see if there are hints as to how we've gotten to this point with Beta Ray Bill and with the Twilight Sword and with Surtur. That's not really a big surprise when I say Twilight Sword in the Marvel Universe. Next up,
well, wait,
is...
hang on, before you go on, let me say something. So yeah, I thought about that too, because coming out of this, you don't really knowing, what is Bill's actually status in a certain respect coming out of this book. And also, I was like, I don't know if the Twilight Sword like classically had similar characteristics to Mjolnir or not, as it feels like they have set up in this book, much less this issue. Because even at the beginning of the book, there was something mentioned. It was like, wait, worthiness? Like, what's that about? Um, but also, like, this is the particular click of the week for me because it was a big, uh, kind of fun knockout drag out fight, between Bill and Surtur. Apparently, a side character gets roadied um, during the course of the book, and you could kind of tell that Daniel Warren Johnson kind of had some fun with with his book, almost in a Donny Cates type fashion. Uh, One would say, with with the writing and the art. Um, but yeah, it definitely leaves you kind of curious as so what's the end result here type situation, and hopefully that will be explored later on down the line or somewhere soon, um, for folks who like Better Ray Bill. So there you go.
Yeah, I would also add that Scourge does get a little bit of
Yes,
shine in this issue.
yes. In a
Scourge
somewhat
being the executioner.
yes, in a somewhat classic sense for him anyway.
Def- definitely. All right, next up um, is Daredevil number 32. It's written by Chip Zdarsky with pencils actually by Mike Hawthorne, inks by Adriano Di Benedetto, colors by Marcio Meniz, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So we have the continuation of the Bullseye is on the loose story, while Elektra slash Daredevil is on the hunt for Bullseye because Bullseye is running rampant on the streets of New York. Meanwhile, we have the continuation of Matt Murdock's saga with behind bars, as it were, and both stories seem to move quite a bit in this issue because ultimately what we find out is that Elektra is not exactly facing the Bullseye singular that we know of or that we're familiar with, and that's a big hint. And Matt Murdock seems to be growing fed up with his circumstances behind bars, and quite possibly sooner rather than later may find himself coming out from behind the prison walls. But we'll see how long that that takes. But that is Daredevil number 32. Next up is Eternals number 6. It's written by Kieron Gillen with art by Isad Rabich. Hold on while I get this credit page up and running. Again, I apologize, folks, because I did not have an opportunity to type out some notes. Color art is by Matthew Wilson, and letters are by VC's Clayton Cowles. So this is the finale of this Eternals miniseries. Now, it wasn't. None of us really expected this to be a miniseries. We expected it to be an ongoing, specifically because there's a movie coming out starring the Eternals in the near future. But it turns out that this is the capper to this particular miniseries. There are some one-shots that have been solicited featuring Kieron Gillen scripting the Eternals moving forward. If I'm not mistaken, there's definitely one in the October solicitations that just came out.
Correct.
Last week. So the story of the Eternals is never going to be far from the publishing side now that the MCU side is going to bring in the Eternals, bring in those characters. But ultimately what we have here is the traitor in amongst the Eternals is revealed, and the Eternals story, as it were, is adjusted and given a different aspect, their history has been adjusted probably to reflect what's happening in the movie, probably what's happening what possibly will happen around some of these leading characters and how they are going to be adjusted in relation to how they've always been portrayed. So, I can't really get into more of it than that. We do find out that as they are eternal, death is almost hardly ever permanent. So that's part of the story.
It kind of feels like, now I haven't read this issue, but it kind of feels like David like took an aspect of what's going on in the X books and was like, you know what, let's take this away from that. And then put them in the situation. Like I haven't read this issue, but reading up to this, it kind of felt that way, in a sense. I don't know if it felt like that to you.
I mean, yeah, I guess they were adapting that aspect because we've always seen, the few times that we've seen the Eternals cross over with like the superhero universe proper. I'm not talking about the Jenkins miniseries, the Jenkins Marvel Knights miniseries, but the few times that we've seen, oh no, I apologize, I withdraw that comment because I'm confusing with Inhumans. The few times that we've seen Eternals is their power over their molecular construction gets disrupted somehow, and that is their pseudo death, as it were. That's part of their power set, is that they are in full control of their molecular structure. So they're not as specific with it here as they have been in other stories. Here they're literally part of an engine, right, that keeps them functioning. They're just cogs in this particular engine. So that aspect is new. That's something that Gillen introduced here, and I wonder if that's going to be part of the movie storyline going forward. But it's interesting. I think they picked a decent place to end the story, I'll be honest. But I'm kind of surprised that they only gave it 6 issues.
So, and on that note, I was thinking kind of a similar thing, if that being the case, because it felt like you said earlier, this felt like this was going to be ongoing, and this is kind of one of those books where I feel like that was what they planned, but maybe either sales didn't really go like they wanted to, or they were like, we got it back out here, the movie's coming, we could just do this and just go ahead and cut it for some reason. But
it could be pandemic related, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly, we don't know, but it kind of felt like, yeah, this was supposed to go a little bit longer than this, and for some odd reason didn't. And like I said, this is kind of one of those times where, like I said, it felt like an ongoing, but just ended up being a miniseries for whatever odd reason. Because sometimes we have seen it go one way or we've seen it the other. Which, like for instance, last week's Savage Avengers, which we didn't get to talk about because we felt like we knew that was going to be a miniseries, and that thing has had way more legs than it did. And we feel like it originally intended to.
It's still going.
Still going.
It's still in the solicits. It's still going.
Yeah.
Unbelievably.
So,
well,
anyway.
back to rapid fire so that we can wrap up my books. The Mighty Valkyries. As usual, there are 2 stories. The Jane story is written by Jason Aaron and Torunn Grumbeck, with art by Mattia de Ulis. The Runa story, spoiler alert, that is the now named ancient Valkyrie, or one of the original Valkyries, that has a strong resemblance to Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie character from Thor Ragnarok, and now and forward in terms of the MCU. That was written by Torunn Grumbeck, with art by Erica D'Urso and colors by Marcio Meniz. Letters on both stories are by VC's Joe Sabino, the other Paisan over at Visual Comic Craft. This story follows the intersection of the 2 parallel stories, as it were, as they have been developing over the course of this Mighty Valkyries series thus far. So this is issue 4, and we finally get the intersection of the stories, and we get a little bit of a unifying of purpose here. One, we have we without spoiling too much, some shenanigans are going on in the in Helheim, in Hell, as Hela and her partner Carnilla, the Norn Queen, are up to something, but it seems like Carnilla is really the one behind it, and there are things going on here that are definitely going to interfere with some seriously powerful magical and ancient powers, as it were. We have the first interaction, the return of Runa to Asgard, to New Asgard, and her dealings with the new King Thor, and those proved to be some comical interactions. But ultimately, here, in terms of moving the story forward, the intersection of these two stories as they come together and kind of reveal what's been happening to what's been really happening from the overarching perspective, from these ancient powers, the wolf that was running around, through what role Craven the Hunter has to play in this. If you look at the next month kind of solicit image that's at the end of this book, you see everyone kind of coming together in one image, and you see that we're probably going to get quite a bit of exposition in the next issue so that we can find out how all of this fits together. And last for me is Shangshi number 3. Just give me a moment to click to this book, and I will get you the credits on this. My apologies, folks. One sec. Well, it's written by Gene Luen Yang. I can say, these are the things that I can tell you off the top of my head, off the top of the dome, right? It's written by Gene Luen Yang with art by DK Ruan. Triona Farrell is the colorist, and VC's Travis Lanham is the letterer. I'm not going to spoil this because Roddykat does intend to read this very soon, but this is the latest installment of Shang-Chi Takes on the Marvel Universe, as it were. And that is sort of what happens here, but as it was in the first two issues of this series, it's not exactly Shang-Chi looking to take on heroes or characters from the rest of the Marvel Universe, but they cross paths as Shang-Chi is looking to reform the Five Weapon Society that he has inherited as the son of Zheng Zhu, otherwise known as Fu Manchu. But he's looking to reform this criminal enterprise, as it were. But this part of his story leads him to run into the darker past of his half brother and sister brother Saber and sister Dagger, who are his companions on this journey so far. And this bit of their shared past is an interesting view into trying to come up with the best way to put this without spoiling too much, is an interesting view into the views of the Five Weapon Society on people who are other than, and that's the most broad way I can put it, in the Marvel Universe. So that's as far as I'll go without spoiling too much. It's entertaining, and I can see where Gene Yang is going with this, because the seeds of distrust have been sown in terms of the sibling members of the Five Weapon Society looking at Shang-Chi's efforts to reform the society with a jaundiced eye. So there's potential there for betrayal and or people working for working towards ulterior motives. So I can see, the seeds of that being laid very clearly. Next issue, we're actually going to get Shangshi versus the FF. So that should prove to be interesting. But we're actually not getting that next month. Next month, we're getting Marvel Voices, the identity issue. This is the not quite timely, well, let's just say tardy Asian American Pacific Islander celebration issue. So we're not getting an issue of Shang-Chi next month, but we're getting it in 2 months. So that's what's coming up. And that's it for me.
All right, then for myself, we're going to start off with a little bit of Transformers Beast Wars number 6, which I'm just going to say that, well, first off, let's see. It is written by Eric Burnham, art by Josh Burcham, and letters by Jake M. Wood. So I basically have in my notes, you really wonder if the scripts to this and the recent Transformers Netflix show were turned in around the same time, or one kind of looked at the other, because there is a thing that happened. Well, let's just say there's an event that happens during the course of the War for Cybertron Kingdom that slightly mirrors what has happened in this issue, and also mirrors what has happened in Beast Wars, or on a couple of different occasions. So I can't really say it's just because of that. That has happened in Beast Wars, the original TV show. This is kind of a reboot of that, by the way. So this is not necessarily a beat for beat retelling of that story, and some things play out a little bit differently than they did here. Case in point, at this point, the Predacons are attacking the Maximo base after Nyx escapes with the help of Dinobot. Dinobot tries to defect to the Maximals, and at this point in this when this issue starts, is helping the Maximals whether they wanted or not. And meanwhile, the base got infiltrated by Scorponok, and Rat Trap has to deal with that with, let's just say, an aliens tool that has or an alien, I guess. Well, no, let's see. No, that's more aliens. Yeah, there we go. A more aliens tool that gets used in the process of that. But Scorponok before that finds out about the stasis pods in space, and comes up with a plan to kind of use them for its own good. Not necessarily how the show kind of plays that part, but it is what it is. Not saying that it should be a 1-to-1 beat, but just things that you notice if you've ever watched the show, or if you've been a fan of the show like I have been. But like I said, things don't at this point don't turn out for a character in a certain way, but some similar progress towards the one end ends up happening for a character. Like I said, it's been a pretty decent read so far. Is like I said, it was a little bit jarring because like I said, I halfway expected it to be a little bit closer to the show than being a kind of a reboot, but that's kind of what's been going on with the Transformers books anyway. So the fact that what happens here is kind of similar to a thing that happens in the Netflix show, or at least in one event, is kind of amusing. And like I said, we'll talk about the show, the Netflix show, probably next week a little bit more. Next up, we have Static Season 1, number 2. As I switch covers here, bear with me for a moment. There we go. Static Season 1, number 2, written by Vida Ayala, layouts by Chris Cross. Finishes in color by Nicholas Draper Ivy, and letters by Anwar Design. So at the outset of the last issue, there was a fight going on between Static and Hot Shot or Hot Streak, excuse me, that happened in front of his home. So Virgil has to make a choice between finishing that fight and trying to save his home. But which also has the unintended consequences of exposing him and his powers to his family, who at this point did not have any knowledge of said powers. So he's kind of had to deal with that, and the family's kind of trying to figure out how to handle that. Meanwhile, Virgil's trying to get back to some semblance of, well, not necessarily semblance of normalcy, but semblance of privacy in a way with its school and family life, but it doesn't quite work out that way. But then he tries to, in the midst of that, he tries to go and get some help, get some more help with his powers, and he goes to a particular person that's probably of note in the Static in the Static history, and they kind of sort of help him, but also put him in harm's way at the end of this issue. And that's pretty much as much as needs to be said, outside of the fact that we also get shades of, hey, Virgil was not the only one, who's starting to manifest powers, or because of the manifesting of powers get some repercussions of said things. So we kind of see some other things kind of coming into play outside of that in this book. If you are familiar with Static lore, I think you will probably be pleased with what's going on here. Like I said, it's kind of a retelling, kind of a reboot. As far as I could tell, done relatively well. And there are some definitely modern notes they're taking with this book in kind of bringing it more into how things are now, as opposed to when Static first came out, and even with the cartoon, when the cartoon came out, which around a similar time. So, like I said, it may or may not put you off if you were like, oh, yeah, they're putting these kind of touches in it now. So I don't know if that's going to put you off, but regardless, it's been pretty good so far, and I feel like it's kind of worth checking out if you even have any remote interest in the character. As some people claim to. Next up, Icon and Rocket Icon and Rocket Season 1, Number 1 just came out this week. And similarly to what happened with the Static's first issue, we get a kind of a retelling of, we get a little bit of backstory into Icon's history and his first meeting with Raquel, who ends up being Rocket. I will go ahead and say, backing up, that this is written by Reginald Hudlin, pencils by Doug Braithwaite. So the inks by first part of the book is inked by Scott Hanna. Second part of the book is inked by Andrew Curry. Colors by Brad Anderson for the whole thing, and letters by World Design. So, like I said, I am not the most familiar with Icon and Rocket. The most I know of Rocket is from Justice League / Young Justice, the cartoon. But I do know about them, just like that, not to the point of what I was reading them when Milestone first was established. What little bit of Icon's history I did kind of know was recounted here, and boy, is it like Superman's, just kind of at a different time, and different time and place. So this is good for folks who, like me, are not entirely familiar with their backstory, but kind of know briefly what generally happened. Like, this is kind of a more modern retelling of what happened then. And as I say in my notes, is definitely written by someone who has written some 90s urban films, as Reginald Hudlin has definitely done, written and or produced, I should say. So you kind of get a little bit of that in there. Again, another book that if you're interested in at all in the Milestone's return and or have any familiarity already with the characters of said universe. Oh, I would go back to Static Season 1, Number 2 real quick and say that there was definitely some references to Icon in that book, because Icon gets referenced like directly a couple of different times in almost like an MCU type fashion. It was like, yeah, so and so is running around doing this and that and the other, and it's definitely if you know anything about that universe and this characters, that's who they're talking about. I don't know whether any of these are going to get more like whether the Milestone service is going to continue to be kind of separate, because they don't really call into anything else DC, the wider DC universe and all, but it was my assumption that they are kind of going to bridge the two. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, or they're just like establishing stuff now and then kind of put them in, or it's just going to keep in a separate kind of separate almost universe like they did originally. But I guess we'll see coming soon. At this point, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, you're just really reestablishing the universe, as it were, or that part of the universe, as it were. So, next up, Robin number 4. Boom, 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 boom. I get the covers. Boom, 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 boom. That is the wrong cover. How about those apples? Trying to do two things at once, folks. Gotta love it. There we go. Robin number 4, written by Joshua Williamson, art by George Corona, colors by Luis Guerrero, letters by ALW's Troy Peteri. So Damian, at the end of the last issue, Damian got saved by Ra's al Ghul. Well, more specifically, I guess his pet, or Damian's pet, Goliath, but I guess at the behest of Ra's al Ghul, or actually the other way around, I guess. Regardless, and most of this issue is pretty much Damian kind of either trying to go after Ra's al Ghul, or being trained by him, or Ra's al Ghul, depending on how you want to say it. Some people, you go either way with it, and I don't know who. Someone goes down one way or the other for it. It doesn't really matter. And apparently there are some allusions to some of Damian's history that apparently he doesn't know about yet, but I guess that's going to come up at some point in this volume. On the other side of that, Damian, who's looking for Ravager, who's looking for Damian, who is not on the island of the said tournament right now, is kind of looking for him, and then runs into this other similarly dressed character that's actually looks closer to Deadpool, and with a Deathstroke thing going on, who kind of hips her to some stuff, and kind of, let's just say, gets the tournament started in full with what happens there. But at the end of the book, we get a let's say a meeting of the Robins that's going to play out next issue for some reason. I've been enjoying the Robin book so far, and we'll see where it goes. Next book is Teen Titans Academy number 5. As I try to keep it a little bit brief here, continue to anyway. Written by Tim Sheridan, who, by the way, wrote Transformers: War for Cybertron Kingdom, apparently. So, yeah. Written by Tim Sheridan, art by Steve Lieber, colors by Dave Stewart. And this is a little bit more on the Batpack, complete with flashbacks to how they met, and them still trying to figure out who Red X is. And apparently they end up finding out who that is for a reason that we get to see that I don't think came up in Future State, but for reasons that Red X has of his own, I guess. And we also get to find out how the Batpack ended up at Teen Titans Academy in the first place. So there is that. Like I said, Teen Titans Academy, I don't know how long this is going to go, but it's a thing that is happening, and been kind of interesting. But even though we know what's going on, what we know already happened in Future State has already happened, it's going to get to some point. So whether it's going to go past that, we don't know. In my next book, Mech Strike, Avengers Mech Strike number 5. Has to be an easy way to do this. Wink. Last, just is the Avengers Mech Strike number 5, which is written by Jed McKay, art by Carlos Magno, color artist Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. This is the last issue of this book and of this miniseries, and we basically catch up to what happened with Black Panther after his seemingly death a few issues back. And it apparently, hey, spoiler alerts, Galactus is not the only one who can have heralds, apparently. And that comes to bear as as Black Panther and the Avengers in their fight with Kang after a big knocked out. And yes, the mentioned mechs of the Mech Strike series actually finally plays a small part at the end of this series, but ultimately ends up in some timey-wimey shenanigans therein. So I don't know. This was a fun book. Also, on a side note, I was out at my local store and actually saw a display for Avengers Mech Strike. So the toys that we talked about that we thought inevitably was going to be out there when this book first started, is definitely out there. So if that is something you're interested in, hey, maybe you want to go check it out. But I definitely saw a display in Walmart for the Avengers Mech Strike toys, the inevitable Avengers Mech Strike toys.
Are you talking about there's going to be another Avengers kind of mech thing that's like inspired by Gunpla or Bandai? That, because that's going to be a different series, believe it or not.
No, it is definitely says Avengers Mech Strike.
Oh, it does say. Oh, it's definitely Mech Strike. Okay.
Yeah, the only thing was there were no toys on there were no nothing on display. So either they got cleaned out or hadn't put them out yet. I don't know, but it was empty laying in the Walmart that I went into. So,
interesting.
Yeah, but it was definitely Avengers Strike, same lettering and everything. So and wait, you're talking about the manga? Oh, you're talking about?
No, there's actually a toy line. Hold on. So because we talked about it in the news.
Yeah, we probably did, but no, this is definitely Avengers Mech Strike, and I like I said, the lettering and all of this. I mean, maybe it could very well still be the same thing, but I don't know. But it was definitely said Mech Strike, regardless. So
I see what I see it, but I don't know if it's exactly what's in this comic, because my understanding was that the Mech Strike wasn't necessarily whatchamacallit. Mech Strike wasn't necessarily a vehicle for selling toys.
It felt like it to me.
Well, I mean, my point being, it wasn't necessarily one. Not that it didn't become one, but maybe I'm just misremembering something that we read in terms of interviews, with the creative teams.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no,
but I know for a fact. I'm like I said, it's late. I'm tired, but if I'm not mistaken, the Marvel mech, move it's a little bit more influenced by Bandai stuff.
I feel like both could still be the case, though.
Oh no, I'm not saying that it's one or the other. I'm saying that specifically the tech toys, that they're actually going to do for a toy line.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's called Tech on Avengers.
Oh, right. I do remember that. Yeah, that is definitely a different thing.
Tech on Avengers, that's a specific toy. They're literally doing it so that they can sell toys.
Right. But I
don't know if they did that for Mech Strike, but, I could be misremembering, as I said.
I feel like while it wasn't, because even when we first talked about the first issue of this, it was like if they weren't doing it, there was going to be a line at some point, and that is definitely born out to that thing. I feel like it was probably the case that one begat the other. It would in whatever case it came.
And you know what's funny? Tech on Avengers is going to be out very soon, August 11th. So it's not far away now.
Yeah, so look out for that, and we definitely will probably be talking about it a little bit more as that's come closer. Because I do, when you said that name, I do remember that coming up at some point. So, that being said, that is it for me, and we can go on to, clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week, as I'm looking at the Walmart website for these Mech Strike things. I see some Mech Strike toys, but yeah, I guess, you know, Mech Strike is Mech Strike. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what's in the comic. But anyway. Clicks of the week.
Let me see. Did we actually get anything from? We did not get anything from those fellas. So
actually, I think I've got a clear winner.
Okay. Go for it.
FF number 34.
Yeah, that's a damn good pick. I can't argue with you on that one.
Yeah, Fantastic Four number 34.
All right. As I re-pull that up for Agent 70 there. That was a really good read this week, so I can't say that I blame you on that one. I think for myself, there was a lot this week, and there was actually some good stuff out. In addition to Fantastic Four number 34, like S.W.O.R.D was really good. Actually, you know, the I would say Black Cat definitely was pretty good. Certain things. There was there were some gems here this week. Let's say. But there was also a lot more books than we got a chance to read. Because it was definitely a heavy book week for this month. I still attribute that to fifth week shenanigans, but we don't know one way or the other. As I'm stalling for time trying to figure out which one. You know what? Screw it. I'm actually going to go with that pick. Fantastic Four 34 was definitely a good book. Like I said, I think I did have a potential click for Beta Ray Bill. The ending did like Agent 70 kind of leave me scratching my head just a tad bit. But it was still good. Regardless. So yes, Fantastic Four number 34. I will co-sign on that one. And with that, we can go to the cinematic news. But first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles, such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as custom DIY pop figures. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10, SHOP10, for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And we start off as we do every week with cinematic news. First up, F9 scribe Daniel Casey to write AGBO's Battle of the Planet feature. This is news coming out of Comic-Con Home, by the way, so there will definitely be some of that. In the wake of having the pandemic's top-grossing Hollywood movie F9, screenwriter Daniel Casey... In the wake of having the pandemic's top-grossing Hollywood movie, F9 screenwriter Daniel Casey is penning AGBO's featured adaptation of the 1978 Japanese anime series Battle of the Planets, aka Science Team Gotcha Man, for those in the know. Casey is working with Joe and Anthony Russo and their AGBO to help construct the foundation for a banner of the planet's universe. Casey's featured screenplay will kick off the expansion of this franchise across multiple media. AGBO and Casey will work with Tatsunoko, the creator of the iconic original anime series, on concepts to explore and expand the IP in depth. Next up.
Okay, next up, Batgirl casts In the Heights star Leslie Grace as Barbara Gordon / Batgirl, as reported by The Hollywood Reporter. Bad Boys for Life filmmakers Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah are directing Batgirl from a script by Christina Hodson, the DC mainstay behind Birds of Prey, and the upcoming The Flash. Kristen Burr is producing. Okay, so it's a slightly different take on Barbara Gordon.
Mm-hmm. I guess. Titans introduces Tim Drake's family in season 3 photo. So Tim Drake, Robin, will not be the only member of his family making an appearance on the upcoming third season.
I was about to say, sorry, I wanted to mention, shout out to Yvonne Craig, the Batgirl of our youth.
And Eartha Kitt, for some of us also.
Batgirl?
Wait, not Batgirl. I'm sorry. You're right. No, I'm thinking Catwoman. My bad.
Yeah, I was about to say. I'm like, no.
No, because I'm thinking of
You're just thinking of the costume and the shiny costume.
Well, no. I was actually thinking Julie Newmar. Wait, was it
Julie Newmar?
Yeah, but I was
Catwoman. Yeah.
So I was kind of conflating the two and was still wrong because I can't on that. But regardless, yes, you were right. Because that was my.
I was like, what?
No, yeah, like I said, I was conflating characters and people, so don't mind me. Anyway, like I said, Tim Drake's will be making his appearance on the upcoming third season of Titans. Photo posted by the official Twitter account of the HBO Max series introduces Jack and Janet Drake, Tim's parents. The photo set in the Drake's restaurant, Excellent Gotham Golden Noodle House, departure from the white-collar occupations the parents held in the comics. And there's a picture of the tweet there. And apparently it says here that Jack and Janet appeared in the comics in August 1998's Batman 436. And it goes a little bit of backstory into those folks. And Tim's tied to identity crisis, which I don't know if it's going to come up on Titans or not. So, according to showrunner Greg Walker, Drake will be obsessed with discovering the identities of both Batman and Robin. In doing so, he gets pulled into Gotham's dark mysteries. The article goes on to say that there's going to be other people that end up showing up during the course of this season. Next up.
I actually wanted to supplement the story I just read. Just give me a second, and I will shoot Roddykat a link that he can get up on the feed on our stream, because it happens across my feed just before I read this story. So just give me a second, and I will get this link over to Roddykat. And feel free to play the Jeopardy music as I'm doing this. Got the link, sending it over to Roddykat as we speak. I just wanted to kind of throw this in here as a supplemental story. As you hear our internal chat going.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. There we go. Apparently J.K. Simmons is in talks to return to the Batman universe as Commissioner Gordon in the Batgirl movie. Okay, Cool.
Right. So what's interesting about that is that this article actually says that because the Matt Reeves Batman movie is essentially out of the DCEU continuity, it seems that this Batgirl movie is definitely going to be in if they're bringing in J.K. Simmons to play Commissioner Gordon.
Right. Okay.
So interestingly enough, that they're making a push, if in fact this does come to fruition, to keep the Batgirl movie in the extended the DCEU, without having to restate that it's extended.
Sure.
All right. Next up, so I had this story: Legends of Tomorrow. Matt Ryan returns for season 7, but not as Constantine. So long, John. When DC's Legends of Tomorrow returns for season 7, longtime DC TV star Matt Ryan will not reprise his role as Constantine. Instead, he will play a new character in a series regular role. Okay, so Constantine's arc on the show is coming to an end in season 6. Matt Ryan's journey with the Legends is not over. Showrunner Phil Klemmer revealed during the show's Comic-Con at Home panel. Okay, he's going to play an all-new character named Dr. Gwyn Davies, who is officially described as an eccentric scientist from the early 20th century who might be the team's only hope next season. Okay.
Yeah, interesting to note if you're not in the know that this is not the first time they've repurposed an actor in this particular show for a different character, because they wanted to keep the actor around. So that's actually kind of cool. YouTube's Superhero Diaries introduces its Alfred Pennyworth, apparently. CBR can exclusively reveal the first look at Patrick Bristow as Batman's loyal butler Alfred Pennyworth in the YouTube web comedy series Superhero Diaries. Many will recognize Bristow from such films as So I Married an Axe-Murderer, Transformers Age of Extinction, and the 2005 remake of The Longest Yard, which I totally forgot they had done. He's also appeared in television shows like Family Guy, Mad About You, and even played the Wigmaster in a fan favorite episode of Seinfeld. So apparently, created by Digital Sky and Scott Skyrim, Superhero Diaries is a weekly YouTube comedy series that celebrates the superhero boom through the lens of both action and satire. In addition to Bristow's Alfred, the show will feature Phil LaMarr as Green Lantern, a role he previously played in animated form in Justice League United, if you didn't already know that. And it launches on actually it has already launched on the 21st of this month, so last week. The series will run for 30 episodes over 10 weeks. If it sounds familiar, it's because Superhero Diaries debuted several episodes during a soft launch in early 2021. Due to limitations brought on by COVID-19 pandemic, the stars and series were first to record their segments while socially distanced, with green screens and editing being utilized to bring this together. So there you go, if that's a thing. Next
up, DC's Injustice film announces an all-star cast and releases a first image. So the voice cast for Warner Brothers Home Entertainment's animated Injustice film has been revealed, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Injustice features Justin Hartley, aka Kevin Pearson from This Is Us, as Superman. Anson Mount actually gets to speak in one of these superhero things as opposed to being Black Bolt. He's playing Batman. Laura Bailey is Lois Lane and Ramakrishna. I'm not sure who Ramakrishna is. Zach Callison is Damian Wayne, I presume, and Jimmy Olsen. Brian T. Delaney as Green Lantern. Brandon Michael Hall as Cyborg. Edwin Hodge as Mr. Terrific and Killer Croc. Oliver Hudson as Plastic Man. Jillian Jacobs as Harley Quinn. Yuri Lowenthal as Mirror Master, Flash and Shazam. Derek Phillips as Nightwing and Aquaman. Kevin Pollak as Joker. And Jonathan Kent not doing his impression of, oh my God, Kevin Pollak's impression of Christopher Walken. Awesome. Anika Noni Rose as Catwoman, Reed Scott as Green Arrow and Victor Zsasz, Farhan Tahir as Ra's al Ghul, Fred Tatasciore as Captain Atom, not Megatron, Janet Varney as Wonder Woman, and Andrew Morgado as a Mirror Master Soldier. Okay.
Oh, yeah, cool. Some notable names there. Let's see. Boop. Next up is Michael B. Oh goodness, yeah. So this particular story has gotten some very stupid legs on the internet recently, but for obvious reasons, as you will see. Michael B. Jordan working on an HBO Max project for Superman may possibly star. Black Panther star Michael B. Jordan is developing a Superman limited series for HBO Max, in which he may star as Val-Zod. According to Collider, Jordan and his Outlier Society production company has already hired a writer to pen the script, though it's unclear who. As for Jordan himself, it said that he may play the title character, but hasn't committed yet. Jordan and Outlier Society are also currently developing a static shock movie for Warner Brothers and DC Films. Obviously, if you know why this kind of went up on Twitter and the internet as it was, is because how. So, folks, if you don't know, Val-Zod is the Superman of Earth 2. It's not Clark Kent. He's not trying to be Clark Kent, as far as I know. I don't remember that much about this character, but I do know that much. So obviously people are like, why are they making Clark Kent black? Like, why do we need why do we need a black Superman? Why can't we do original characters, even though you don't support the original characters that are already out there? Also, all that kind of nonsense has been going on, and believe me, I've gotten some of that. Like, you can do both, folks. You can really do both. But this is not Clark Kent. This is a different Superman. And if you knew anything about that, and and even when you bring that up to people, and they still say they're still making them Clark Kent, I'm like, no, that's not entirely true. DC and Marvel has a multiverse. Things play out differently. This is one of those instances. Calm the fuck down. Anyway, that's that. We'll see if it comes to fruition. Next up.
I wanted to point out an error in one of my jokes from the last story about the voice cast from DC's Injustice.
Okay.
Fred Tatasciore wasn't the voice of Megatron. He was in fact a lot younger than that actor, and is the voice of the Incredible Hulk from the Avengers, Mighty Avengers cartoons and other animated projects, including and video games as well. So that is the character that he's known to voice. So I want to point out a quick error. It is late, I'm tired, and the jokes are flying definitely off the hip.
Okay, sure. Next up.
Next story is Disney Plus's Chip and Dale series drops an adorable first trailer. So the chipmunks get a taste of the big city in the trailer for the animated series Chip and Dale Park Life. It's directed by Jean Cavrol, who previously served as a background artist and layout director on the French animated comedy series Augie and the Cockroaches. Okay. So, this is going to premiere new episodes on Wednesdays rather than Fridays. And, it's a part of the streamer's efforts to avoid competing directly with Netflix and Hulu. Okay.
Next up. Boop. Marvel is launching a mini studio for future animation projects. With What If right around the corner, Marvel Studios has announced that it won't be the last animation project that the production company creates. Victoria Alonso, executive, you know who she is, and one of the main figures, actually you might not know, executive VP of film production at Marvel Studios, and one of the main figures responsible for crafting the MCU alongside Kevin Feige, spoke to Variety about the company's first foray into animation, revealing that a mini studio, quote unquote, will help usher in more animated fare. We're going to have our animation branch and mini studio, and there will be more to come from that as well, Alonso says. We're super excited about animation, which is my first love. I mean, which is kind of weird given that they have animated projects out. I guess this is a more along the lines of more MCU focused ones. I don't know, or whatever the case may be, or maybe just in
Well,
general and putting
what I was
everything
gonna
under the umbrella.
say is, what I was gonna say is five will get you 10. They put out What If, with outside studios presumably,
Right.
and they put that together, and it's going to play out, and it seems to be playing out much like the MCU played out, where, if you recall, Marvel Studios worked in conjunction with other established studios to put out the early phase of the MCU, and then Marvel Studios, once they got comfortable with the process, decided to do everything in house.
Right.
So I suspect, this is just conjecture on my part, I suspect that something similar happened here, where Marvel figured, if we kept everything in house, costs maybe go down, or they'll have more control over the final product, or all the various reasons that people bring things like that in house. So they decided to create their own animation studio within Marvel Studios,
Right.
to keep to try to fulfill all of those desires.
Yeah, but the weird thing about this is, like, one, it's not like this is the first time they have Marvel animated stuff. Like, we've, as far as I know, actually I don't know if like that Marvel like the Spider-Man show is still going on or whatever, or if they have anything of the like. 'Cause, like, I figured they've been making a play to bring animation in house with like the previous Spider-Man stuff, because we, as you well know, Spectacular was I think the last one that even
Sony,
other,
right?
that got cut off because they were doing whatever was done. Now, granted, Spider is a different case because that's Sony's license. So, but the case with like the Avengers stuff that's been going on, and Guardians of the Galaxy being a animated project and stuff like that, you figure they already had that kind of in house already, and that
Yeah, but I think, as you said, you mentioned the Spidey cartoons. I don't think. Well, the thing is, the only rights that Sony actually has are for the movie rights, the live action rights. The cartoon rights all reverted to Disney, as I think as part of their deal.
really,
And
because I was under the impression that part was still the same with the animation and movies, but I could be very much
no,
mistaken.
but that's why it's on. No, because that's why it's on Disney Plus.
Right. Well, I've just figured a deal was made in that. So okay, fair enough.
Right. So my understanding is that, but again, like I said, pure conjecture on my part.
Sure.
That it kind of seems to be mirroring the situation that played out with the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Where they started out outsourcing some of the stuff and decided to keep it in house to, at the very least, gain more creative control and or lower costs.
Right, and I also feel like this is definitely possibly, even though it's coming in late, you would think it's coming in later than you would think it would, with like, Disney and Star Wars doing kind of had already been doing a similar thing with having the storyboard group, and Marvel Games kind of doing a similar thing with having a story group and whatnot, kind of putting things in house so they would have more control about things of that nature. It fits also along the lines of that as well, which could very well be the case. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, being that they've already had animated projects already, it seems like, why they hadn't thought about this before now. Again, we don't really know the full scope of it. So next up, so
Ahsoka Tano live action herself, Rosario Dawson, shared an Instagram story of another user celebrating the casting of Mena Massoud as Ezra and Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn on her own Instagram story, which is a confirmation of earlier reports that those two would respectively landed those Star Wars roles. That's it's interesting that that's essentially a confirmation of these two casting announcements.
indeed. To which, yeah, anybody familiar with the end of Star Wars Rebels kind of knows where this is going to seem like it's going to go, and what they kind of set up in that. So that'll be kind of interesting, I guess. Actually, no, there's not even a guess. It will. But Gundam Studio previews 11 minutes of new mecha series Kyokai Sinkai. Sinki, or Sinki or Sinkai? I think it's Sinki, sorry. Sunrise, the animation studio behind Mobile Suit Gundam, has released the first 11 minutes of its latest sci-fi mecha action epic, Kyokai Senki. The extended preview for Kyokai Senki was released to Bandai's official YouTube channel. The new series is being produced by at Sunrise's Beyond division, a relatively new branch of the acclaimed animation studio that's best known for its work on 2019's Gundam Build Divers RE Rise. Despite similarly having a more serious tone than the lighthearted Build subseries, the new show will feature many of the staff who worked on Gundam Build Divers and Gundam Build Fighters, including script supervisor Noboru Kimura and the character designer Kenichi Anuki. The series will be directed by Starbazer 2022's Nobuyoshi Habara. So yeah, there you go. New mech series, folks. Yeah, gotta love it. And then this article kind of goes into a little bit of the what it's about, but we don't. But you can check that out in the show notes if you feel so inclined.
Next up, so at a special Dragon Ball panel at Comic-Con at Home, Dragon Ball series producer Akio Ioku and animation producer Norihiro Hayashida revealed new character designs for several of the characters in Dragon Ball, which also provide a hint as to when the new movie takes place. So this is the upcoming Dragon Ball superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
We have one of the new designs shown was for Goku's granddaughter, Pan or Panchan.
Yep.
Who is old enough to attend kindergarten. We also get a slight recoloring of Piccolo, and we have a different color scheme for Kuririn's police uniform. I refuse to call them by their anglicized names. I'm like, yo, who the hell is Krillin?
I love it. Agent 70 having just caught up with the Dragon Ball mythos in its whole. Well, you still haven't done the movies yet, have you?
I've done the movies that are canon.
Yes. Wait. Does that include? Yeah. Does that include the super stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Like whatchamacallit? Basically, the Broly, the Super Broly movie essentially brought the old Broly movie into canon, but not really. Just it brought the character in.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of a cherry picking of what is, what isn't. But yeah, some of those old movies are kind of fun.
It's kind of like Star Wars in that regard.
A little bit. Yeah.
Like redoing. Like kind of going over and saying, okay, so we'll take Thrawn. We'll take this. We'll take that. So.
Right. So cool stuff. I'm not sure when this movie says sometime in 2022. Got it. All right.
Yep.
Netflix debuts first look at Usagi Yojimbo series Samurai Rabbit. At this year's San Diego Comic-Con at Home, Netflix offered viewers a look at its upcoming animated project Samurai Rabbit: The Usagi Chronicles, a spin-off of the long-running comic series Usagi Yojimbo. On the panel were showrunners Doug and Candy Langdale, who broke down the story of Samurai Rabbit. The series takes place 1,000 years in the future and follows the story of Yuichi Usagi, a descendant of Usagi Yojimbo's protagonist Miyamoto Usagi. Yuichi dreams of becoming a great swordsman like his ancestor, but his brash and impulsive actions cause him to accidentally release a wave of yokai onto the city of Neo-Edo. Yuichi assembles an unlikely team to clean up his mess and protect the series, which weirdly enough sounds like Samurai Jack in certain aspects.
Definitely.
So there you go. That thing is coming. We don't know. We don't have a release date, but it's definitely going to be on Netflix as per said. Next up, Netflix is reportedly developing a live-action Pokemon series.
Detective Pikachu might not be the last time you see real people interacting with fictional, but with fictional Pokemon. Netflix is reportedly in early development on a live-action Pokemon TV series, according to Variety, with Lucifer showrunner and executive producer Joe Henderson attached to shepherd the project to a screen near you. Okay.
Yeah, I I still can't personally say if Detective Pikachu was worth it, but I have also not seen it again. So I mean, I have not seen it, so I can't really say. That's weird.
I couldn't see either. I could not see either. Never watched it.
Yeah, one of these days I will. Soon. Invincible's Robert. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take these next two since they're related, kind of. Invincible's Robert Kirkman has the perfect actor in mind to voice Conquest. So Robert Kirkman can't wait for Invincible to adapt Viltrumite antagonist Conquest into the animated series. During Comic-Con at Home 2021, Kirkman was asked which Invincible character he's most excited to see on the Amazon show who did not make it into season 1, to which he immediately singled out Conquest. I think we're all looking forward to seeing Conquest. I think we got a small glimpse of Conquest in season 1. Hopefully we'll be seeing him very soon, Kirkman said. I know there's a lot of tweaks to that story, a lot of enhancements to that story that I'm very excited about, that I've been cooking up, and so I can't wait for that. I've also got, I think, the perfect actor in mind, but I'm not going to say nothing according to this. So I'm very excited about Conquest. And on that note, Robert Kirkman also teases a Wolfman appearance in the Amazon series. Let's see. So, Invincible creator Robert Kirkman teased Wolfman may appear in future seasons of the acclaimed Amazon series. During the self-same panel that we just mentioned, Kirkman briefly touched on the topic of Gary Hampton, also known as Wolfman, one of the most popular and iconic characters from the Invincible comic book series, if you say so, article writer. When a fan asked Kirkman if the superhero lycanthrope had a chance of making an appearance in the Invincible animated series, Kirkman simply said, "There's a chance. I'll leave it at that." Now, granted, folks, I say that with the tone I said it as is. I am not that familiar with Invincible, the series, outside of the lead character and a couple of cursory characters. So, sure. People tend to throw around popular and iconic very willy-nilly. So if that is actually the case, have fun with it. Next up,
Transformers the movie returns to theaters for its 35th anniversary, sending children home crying after watching Optimus Prime get killed. The 1986 animated movie will air in U.S. theaters on Sunday, September 26th and Tuesday, September 28th at 7 p.m. local times. The screenings will also feature new exclusive content. So this is from Fathom Events.
Till all or one. Now, yeah, we've talked about this before, but this is kind of, I guess, an update to it. Because I feel like we've mentioned that this was going to happen within the past year. So if you haven't seen Transformers the movie, and as Agent 70 said, cried your eyes out when Optimus died, spoiler alert, then yeah, you get a chance to check it out for the anniversary in a big theater. So yeah. Next up, and last
shout out to our very own Tim Dog 98 for preparing this piece for CBR.com.
Sure. Yes.
That we were just referencing.
Yes. And speaking of Transformers news, Transformers fans celebrate Optimus Prime as Peter Cullen turns 80 years old as of July 28th, which was actually the day before yesterday as of this recording. Transformers fans celebrated the 80th birthday of the man behind the much-loved leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen. The Canadian actor has lent his distinctive tone to many characters over the years, such as Eeyore and Winnie the Pooh, Monterey Jack in the original Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't he play Scooby-Doo? Wasn't he the voice of Scooby-Doo? And a lot of animal characters. I'm going to look it up.
He was the voice of Eel.
No, I know it says that, but I'm just saying. But I
Yeah.
feel like, hold on a second. Acting. 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo. He wasn't a Scooby Doo. Okay, yeah. But okay, no, maybe not. Okay, never mind then. Or maybe it was Frank Walker. That was I feel like one of them voiced Scooby Doo at some point. Oh wait, no, new Scooby Doo Mysteries, additional voice. No, that's still not. So yeah, he definitely wasn't in the Scooby Doo series, just not as the character. Either way, happy birthday, Peter Cullen. Till all are one.
Yeah, yes, happy birthday, Optimus. Okay.
Next up.
So that's it for cinematic news, right?
That is indeed.
Okay, so we're going to transition over to comic book news.
You take this one.
Okay, writer Rodney Barnes and artist Jason Sean Alexander are expanding the world of their Eisner-nominated Philadelphia with a spin-off titled Nita Hawes's Nightmare Blog. Nita Hawes's Nightmare Blog is pure horror in the classical sense of the word, Barnes said. Its roots are in the tradition of the classic horror films and novels he's loved throughout his entire life. He's incredibly excited to see how fans take to the story. Okay.
So I know, as you may or may not know, Agent 70 has been the one reading Philadelphia. That's why I asked him to take this one. Is this a character that is in the book that you know of, or this is?
I'm looking at the story now, so right. No, I mean the name doesn't ring a bell, so it might just be something that maybe jumps out of the story, but I don't see the connection right away.
I got you. Right, or maybe something new for this that will connect into the universe. Like
exactly.
Yeah, like it's
exactly
kind
of much like the backup story that is running through the page the pages of Philadelphia too. So
gotcha. Okay, so cool. Whoops. Masters of the Universe Revelation Masterverse figures Wave 2 picks. So though Mattel has had the listings out for a while, they held off on revealing the Masterverse figures Wave 2 until Masters of the Universe Revelation debuted, which by the way has happened if you weren't listening earlier. Interestingly, they are far less spoilery than some of the figures already released, since most appeared in promo images already, according to this article. As with the first wave, it features 3 main characters and 1 wild card. The Mossman slot goes for Spikor, who's, spoiler alert, who appears on the show. I guess that's a spoiler. I don't know. Yeah. Is brief, but it delivers major players Tila, Beastman, and Man-at-Arms. Why wasn't she in the first wave? We don't know. Actually, we kind of know. We don't want, like I said, don't worry, real unspoiled Masters of the Universe Revelation. So yeah, that is a thing. I don't know when is this thing. We have when is this coming out? Mattel hasn't officially announced a release date, but there is a pre-order scheduled for October. So, and according to this article, maybe we'll find out when part 2 of season 1 will drop of the series on Netflix. Next up.
All right, next up. So, this article that we're going through has some announcements for new toys over the next year, and probably heading into the Christmas season. Mm-hmm. So, as Roddykat scrolls through, we'll just highlight a few of these. Mm-hmm. Some new Transformers figures, Beast Wars figures, Beast Wars Optimus Primal, and Megatron, based on the scene in Transformers the movie where Unicron, spoiler alert, reformats the character into Galvatron. We have Count Chocula and Frankenberry figures. Oh my gosh, that's scary looking. Some Power Rangers Retro Morphin Ninjor. Goodness gracious. A Diamond Select Toys Rocketeer Deluxe figure that it looks like it's packaged in a VHS box. A Lego Star Wars 2021 Advent Calendar. That's hysterical. A Mattel Masters of the Universe Mega Constructs Advent Calendar as well. Oh, that's cool. A NECA Gargoyles Ultimate Goliath figure. That's really cool looking for fans of gargoyles. Gentle Giant Star Wars The Mandalorian Jumbo 12-inch action figure. Beast Kingdom Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End Davy Jones. Okay. And that's it for this particular article, but that's pretty cool that we're starting to get these toy announcements for Christmas season.
Yep. And speaking of Toy Corner, Marvel Legends announces What If and Sylvie figures, along with a few others. Marvel's Hasbro's Marvel Legends line has been killing it lately, having been recently revealed the Galactus figure that we talked about last week. And now they are revealing their next wave of 6-inch figures as a part of Hasbro Pulse Fan First Wednesday live event. Agent 70 told me about one particular one, which had me bring this article up in the first place. Most of the wave centers on Marvel Studios' upcoming What If series on Disney Plus, and a lot of these figures are giving us some details on about the upcoming series that we didn't know before. So for those of you who want to go into, this basically article says, hey, spoiler alert, I guess, for these figures and whatever. So we see here that looks like this Marvel Legends line is a Build-A-Figure for Uatu the Watcher.
Right.
And the figures that are in here, let's see, we got Peggy Carter, Captain America. We have, I guess that's what, War Machine? Steve Rogers or something?
Yeah, it's supposed to be Steve Rogers in like an Iron Man style suit.
Yes, or somewhat looking like or I was about to say Iron Giant, but also Iron Man V1. But anyway, zombie Captain America. Let's see, Doctor Strange in 2 different forms. One looks like a Nebula figure. And
that's supposed to be Spider-Man Vampire Hunter.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what he looks like. Kind of looks like Dracula.
Okay, because I could have sworn I saw on the trailer that he was doing magic, but maybe I'm maybe mistaken on that.
Well, that's Doctor Strange in that first kind of recolored, that multiple color version of Doctor Strange. I think that's right. But yeah, it's it's weird, to kind of think about what we'll possibly see in the What If series now, looking at these toys.
Right. But also we get a figure, another figure of the Loki variant Sylvie, aka the Enchantress, I still say, that is also coming out separately from this line, I think. Yes. No. Actually, no. It is in this line. I'm sorry. 7 figures. So yeah, there you go. So Sylvie is definitely in this. We also get pictures of one Carol Danvers in her binary form. That is going to be, looks like, I'm assuming, a Walgreens and EB Games exclusive.
Yeah, EB Games Canada. So it's going to be a Walgreens exclusive. We still haven't seen too many of the Cosmic Wave, Richard Rider Nova, and Quasar. So this is the last of the Cosmic Wave that's exclusive to Walgreens. So yeah, they're going to put out a binary. So, if you're looking for that era of Carol Danvers' career, hey, it's a cool figure.
Yeah.
So, that'll be interesting to try to hunt down.
Are there Starjammers figures?
No.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, but that would be a box set.
Probably,
that would be a hard sell to try to sell single figures of Corsair and Raza and Mamzelle Hepzibah and Chode.
Sure.
And, here I am running through their whole roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Considering that we've only gotten one member of the Imperial Guard, we've only gotten Gladiator. So.
Yeah. Also, we have a figure, which is the one that prompted me to find this article, and the one that Agent 70 told me about, because he knew my my excitement for this. Tigra, which we may have talked about before in the show fairly recently or something, but maybe not. But yes, a Tiger figure is officially out, which we knew it was coming, but or not officially out. I believe pre-orders are up for
Yeah,
it.
pre-orders are up.
Yeah, I didn't. So when you told me about it and I saw it earlier, I didn't see it on Hasbro Pulse like you told me, but it might have been my timing of when, because I looked at it earlier this morning.
Okay.
And maybe my search was also off, or so I don't know, but regardless, I didn't see it then. But I'm gonna definitely go look for this because I really would like this figure. I like Tiger. We also get a Vulture figure.
Yeah, it's going to be a deluxe. What it is that it's a deluxe version that's more movie accurate.
Right.
So because because I built this figure because it came out in a really cool Spider-Man wave, and it was like an early version, like a production version of the Vulture suit, and the wings were a part of the Build-A-Figure,
right,
which is kind of whack. But ultimately, this is like the most movie accurate version, and they're putting it out as like a special, like a special, like kind of like a premiere level figure, on its own, individually packaged at, I think is a Target exclusive, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if it actually says here.
I think it shows the
yes,
picture.
you are correct. Yeah, no, it does say here.
It's So yeah, and also in addition to this, before we move on to the next story, they're also doing army builder hand ninjas that are in black uniforms as opposed to the red uniforms that came with the Stiltman Build-A-Figure wave. So if you missed out on that, like I did, and would actually rather have your ninjas in black garb, then you can hop over to Hasbro Pulse, and the Tigra pre-order on Hasbro Pulse is sold out.
Yep, I was just looking at it actually as I bring up the Hasbro Pulse site.
It's going to be other ways to get it, but it is sold out on Hasbro Pulse, as is the classic Hercules, which is kind of disappointing. I'm going to have to find that through another source.
Boo! Not for the whole. Not for the. Actually, the Sylvia is also sold out, but apparently the rest of that wave still up. Still a thing. Weird that the Hercules is sold out. I don't know why.
No idea. I mean, people are looking for that classic version.
I guess so.
It'll be no need to fret over some of these. You know what I mean? Like the ones that you worry about are the ones that you don't think they're necessarily going to come back with, like that Firestar
or Tigra. So
I think I would have been in a right panic if I wasn't able to get that Firestar through Amazon. I think I ended up getting it.
Right, same as me. But anyway, moving right along. So that's kind of a temporary bummer for me because, like I said, I wanted that Tiger figure.
There'll be ways. We'll find other ways to get it, folks. So let's, we'll try not to stress out too much over it yet. But every once in a while, we run into roadblocks when it comes to getting our favorite characters as Marvel Legends.
Sure. Next up.
Next up. So the next story is new middle grade Marvel collections are set for the holidays. Marvel's October solicits include 3 collected editions with potential appeal to readers of middle grade graphic novels. All 3 are rated for ages 10 and up and have a trim size of 6x9 and between 112 and 128 pages each, which adds to a growing body of middle grade graphic novels featuring Marvel characters. Reptile Brink of Extinction by writers Terry Blas and Christos Gage, and penciled by Enid Balam and Steve Ewe, with a cover by Paco Medina, collects Reptile 1 through 4, as well as the character's first appearance in Avengers: The Initiative featuring Reptile. It's going to be on sale on December 8th with MSRP of $13.99. The collection of WEB of Spider-Man by writer Kevin Schnick and penciler Alberto Albuquerque, with cover by Gurihuru. As I said, collects the first 5 issues of that book. That's going to be due out on November 24th, Thanksgiving time, with an MSRP of $13.99. And Marvel vs. Thor, it's a collection of comics by various creators. Lots of different Thor stories here. This 120-page volume collects a bunch of short, kid-friendly stories about Thor and his fellow Asgardians. The release date is December 15th, and the MSRP is $9.99.
Cool. Dark Ages. Sorry. Yep, make sure that I was still on the right place. Dark Ages cover gives Miles Morales a symbiote suit and makes more Marvel changes. So Marvel, some of that we may have talked about in the past, I can't remember, but regardless, Miles Morales, Iron Man's, Wolverine, and a host of other heroes are receiving extreme makeovers in Marvel's upcoming Dark Ages alternate universe series. The cover of Dark Ages 2, penned by Tom Taylor and illustrated by Ivan Coelho, appropriately features Apocalypse looming large as the Avengers, X-Men, and other associated heroes band together to bring humanity together after the age of technology is brought to an abrupt end. The cover of issue 2 offers a glance at the radical changes some heroes will undergo the course of the series. Miles is wearing a symbiote suit, while an older Peter Parker dons an oversized web shooters alongside an Iron Man and steampunk armor. The Laura Kinney version of Wolverine, sporting tactical gear, is also present, along with what may be a grown-up Valeria Richards and a new Spider-Girl. Yeah, so Dark Ages number 2 goes on sale in October from Marvel Comics, and as we may have mentioned last week, Marvel solicits are out for October. Next up.
Sorry. Next up, you can sample Marvel's Avengers, the video game, for free later this month on PC, Stadia, and PlayStation. Square Enix has announced. The game will have a free play weekend from July 29th, that's this weekend now, through August 1st to coincide with the permanent launch of the multiple hero feature that lets you assemble a squad full of Hulks or whatever you wish. Developer Crystal Dynamics has also teased that the weekend will have perks for returning players too, like quadruple XP. If you decide to buy the game permanently, you'll keep any progress and purchases that you made on the platform that you sampled, on the same platform that you used to sample the game, and you'll have access to the entire Avengers campaign, as well as the Kate Bishop and Hawkeye operations. Square Enix noted that a similar Xbox weekend is going to come out in the coming months.
Yeah, so if you haven't, you've heard the bad press about Marvel's Avengers, but still kind of curious about it, there you go. You can check it out this weekend as of this recording. Probably by the time this recording comes out in audio form, it might be slightly late. So, sorry about that, I guess. I don't know. Rumor. Roster for NetherRealm's Marvel's fighting game leaks. So yeah, again, grain of salt, this whole thing, because we still don't know whether that thing's going to be an actual thing. But there was a rumor that NetherRealm purveyors of Mortal Kombat was going to be making a not totally unlike Injustice style Marvel fighting game. There was also probably a rumor to where there might, which I very much doubt would happen, a Marvel versus DC fighting game also. But like I said, I doubt that. But again, this is a rumor and comes off of Reddit, so you grain of salt this whole thing. But there's a roster here that includes a lot of folks from Marvel versus Capcom, unsurprisingly.
Right.
So yeah, you can check that out if you are so interested.
Yeah.
Next up,
definitely some interesting choices on that list too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and obviously popular choices also. So no surprise either way. Next up, Marvel gives Spider-Woman a ferocious and stylish new arch enemy. So CBR had an exclusive look at Spider-Woman number 14 by Carla Pacheco and Pere Perez, which introduces Jessica Drew's new fashionable arch nemesis. The issue number 14, that is, debuts a new villain named Rose Rocher, who will come to torment Jessica Drew in her next adventure. Okay. Sounds like a wine, but hey, we'll see how that pans out. X-Men creators want to hold a new Hellfire Gala and a new X-Men team election every year. Earlier this year, X-Men fans got the chance to vote for 2 members of the recently relaunched superheroized X-Men team. And sometime next year, it seems they'll get another chance, as X-Men series writer Jerry Duggan has revealed that Hellfire Gala party and his accompanying X-Vote will happen annually. During a conversation about the aftermath of the Hellfire Gala event as a part of Marvel's X-Men Comic-Con panel, X-Men Group editor Jordan D. White and writers Jerry Duggan, Vita Alaya, Benjamin Percy, all agreed that the Hellfire Gala, both the story and the party itself, were a success. Moderators Ryan Penagos then asked a fan-submitted question about whether the gala would become an annual event. Quote unquote, when Emma threw the party, she said it would be the first, that it was the first, and that she didn't intend for it to be the last, answered White. So if people are into it, I think we'd be thrilled to keep it coming. So there you go. The writers each echoed White's approval for the idea of telling another Hellfire Gala story next year. Quote unquote, who doesn't want an excuse to dress up and show off to all the humans, flex on them, joked Vita Alaya. But the news didn't stop there. As the conversation turned to who each of the writers may have voted for in the X-Vote, Duggan personally expressed his vote for Tempo and his wish to bring her to the X-Men, while stating his excitement over adding vote-winning mutant Polaris to the team. Then it kind of goes on to go on about the rest of the panelists' favorites and so on from there. But Oh, well, one last quote from this is the interesting way we're going to do this from now on, according to Duggan, is that we'll have a yearly Hellfire Gala with a newly elected team, hesitantly sliding, perhaps. So Duggan capped off the apparent announcement with a joke, adding, so if your favorite isn't on the X-Men team, it's because you let that character down. So that's going to be an interesting turn of events. Haha. Next up,
so the Fantastic Four book has hit delays on the way to the comic's 60th anniversary, as we mentioned earlier. Kang and all his variants return to Marvel Comics this fall for a showdown with the FF for their 60th anniversary, but that showdown is being delayed as the issue that led up to it was Fantastic Four 34, released this week, was actually scheduled to go on sale 2 weeks ago, but was delayed at the last minute. Whatever affected it is seemingly spreading, as FF number 35, the anniversary issue, has been postponed until September 1st, which means no issue from the FF in August at all. Okay.
Yeah, so we kind of alluded to the delay with the Fantastic Four earlier when we talked about this issue, and there you go. And on more Fantastic Four news, actually, speaking of Marvel previews John Romita Jr.'s return with 60th anniversary Fantastic Four number 35. So the original story here is that, well, as we know, August marks the 60th anniversary of the Fantastic Four in the Marvel, in the Marvel Universe. And celebrates September 1st, Fantastic Four 35. Just missed it by a day according to this, but I think that's going to be a little bit more off. Will be an oversized issue, which will include not only John Romita Jr.'s first apparent work on interior pages since his return to Marvel, but the return of Mark Waid to the Fantastic Four. And there was an update to this article that says that Marvel has released a new wraparound cover and interior artwork by John Romita Jr. to the upcoming Fantastic Four 35 anniversary issue. And as stated before, this issue is the return of John Romita Jr. after being at DC for so long. According to Marvel, the new cover serves as both the celebration of the anniversary and a teaser of the issue's story written by Dan Slott, a showdown across a Fantastic Four history against the Master of Time Travel, Kang. So you can check that out in the show notes if you want to see some preview pages of that. Next.
Next up, seemingly ripped from the script pages of Marvel Studios' Black Widow, Yelena Belova and the Red Guardian are on the run from the Russian government in the upcoming comic book series Winter Guard. Writer Ryan Cady and artist Jan Bazaldua are bringing the revitalized Winter Guard from the pages of Jason Aaron's current Avengers run in to hunt two of their own. Okay, so you get Red Guardian versus his replacement Vanguard.
Right. So basically, because there was a one shot with Yelena and Red Guardian a few months ago, and this seemingly is, if I do remember reading it, and this I guess is a sequel to that, even though this article is not saying as much, because it was definitely teasing there was something more that was going to happen with these two characters together. So that's probably it. Star Wars: The High Republic announces third wave of titles. During this year's Comic-Con at Home virtual convention, Lucasfilm Publishing announced the first batch of titles that will arrive as a part of Wave 3 of the Star Wars High Republic Publishing Initiative. Star Wars The High Republic Wave 3 Phase 1 is set to launch in January 2022. It will consist of 3 books, one for adults, one for young adults, and one for middle grade readers, as well as a new 2-part comic book limited series. The adult novel entitled The Fallen Star comes from author Claudia Gray and will be published by Del Rey Bars. The YA novel is entitled Midnight Horizon and comes from author Daniel Jose Older. Finally, the middle grade book Mission to Disaster comes from author Justina Ireland. Midnight Horizon and Mission to Disaster both will be published by Disney Lucas Press. Meanwhile, Marvel Comics is set to publish The Eye of the Storm, written by Charles Soule. The series will consist of 2 30-page issues and will delve into the origin story of one Marchion Ro. Wave 2 of Star Wars kicked off back in June with Rising Storm with Kevin Scott and some stuff that's already been out. Next up.
Just a quick follow-up on that Red Guardian versus his replacement Vanguard story. Mm-hmm. I did not realize that Vanguard is actually still the original Vanguard, the dude that ran around with a hammer and sickle and a cape. That's him. Okay. But he's dressed as the Red Guardian now, but he's still using his Vanguard code name.
Right.
I did not know that. I was just looking at the Marvel page. I was literally looking at a Marvel wiki, actually.
Right.
And it explained how this character, Vanguard, who was a mutant, who was still a mutant, but used to have a hammer and sickle to focus his power.
I remember that. Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. So he doesn't need that now, and now he runs around dressed as Red Guardian. But he still has his powers and calls himself Vanguard, his old code name.
So I wonder where that, if that has come out somewhere else and we just didn't know that, or if that's going to come out.
Yeah, okay. I was about to say, if you look at the wiki, they footnote the comics. I'm like, I did not read any of these issues.
Right. Well, just out of curiosity, what was it?
Oh, when this happened?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me double check the footnotes. So, this happened relatively recently.
Okay.
In Avengers, actually.
That checks out. I kind of figured. Well, not kind of figured, but I was like, yeah, that seemed like something that would have been a recent thing.
Yeah.
I just don't remember it.
Exactly. And I think it's wild that I'm like, why do they keep calling this guy Vanguard? That's not Vanguard. That's Red Guardian.
Right.
But it did happen in the story, which is like I said, it's just kind of wild to me. Like, wow, they're just not even messing around. Like, yeah, we're gonna call this guy Vanguard. And I'm like, that's not Vanguard.
Right. And I guarantee you that was probably something that was like early on in Jason's run, and it was just kind of like not necessarily a throwaway line, but it was like, oh yeah, and they kept it pushing. Didn't make a big deal out of it.
Because we all remember Vanguard and Darkstar being, brother and sister, like twins. Mm-hmm. So that's so weird. But anyway, the next story is Binge Books has changed the release date for the Heroes Union #1, a new superhero comic from legendary creators Roger Stern, Ron Frenz, and Sal Buscema. Originally set to release on August 4th, the first issue of the Heroes Union will now arrive in stores a week later on August 11th. The Heroes Union #1 issue will have a unique design at 68 pages and comes from Binge Books, created by TV veteran Darren Henry. The calling card for the publisher is delivering comics in a bingeable format for today's audience. Okay.
And according to this cover page, 68 issues of Awesome #1 at $4.99. Which that's actually a lot of book for that price.
Yep.
And I guess there you go. There's the bingeable part about it, because 68 pages is it's pretty much an arc.
It's pretty. Yeah, no, it's like 3 issues basically.
Yeah, or half of an arc. Yeah, I guess so. So there you go. Goes on sale August 11th. Next up, Jack the Ripper heads to the Wild West in a new Aftershock series. Aftershock Comics has officially announced Cross to Bear, a new comic book series by Marko Stevanovic and Sinisa Banovic. My apologies for butchering your name. That finds the infamous unidentified British serial killer Jack the Ripper in the American Wild West. Cross the Bear is slated to hit comic shops on Wednesday, October 13th. Jack the Ripper was never caught because no one was looking for him in the Wild West. No one except for the Order, according to the book's official synopsis. An organization made up of the descendants of the Crusaders sworn to eradicate the unnatural. The Order will stop at nothing to fulfill the pledge their forefathers made, even if it meant crossing the ocean or a line or two. So there you go. Next.
Next up, this October, Aubrey Sitterson and Fico Ossio's Dark Horse Comics title No One Left to Fight returns for part 2. No One Left to Fight 2 is set to launch in comic shops on Wednesday, October 13th. The original No One Left to Fight was never intended to be a 5-part story, Ossio explained during an interview with Entertainment Weekly. The first saga was planned to be a 10-issue story in 2 parts. Okay. And apparently the first half ended in a brutal cliffhanger, so they're looking to dive right back into it. All right.
If I remember, Aubrey Sitterson wrote one of those volumes of G.I. Joe from in recent memory. So okay, cool. Next up, Astro City and more Kurt Busiek stories find a new home where it started. Image Comics. Comic writer Kurt Busiek is bringing almost all of his creator-owned work for the past 25 years to Image Comics. For some, it's a return. For others, it's long out-of-print comics getting a new life. Image Comics has announced that 5 creator-owned Kurt Busiek series, Astro City, not Astro Boy, that's a different one, different series. Aerosmith with Carlos Pacheco and Jesus Marino. The Wizard's Tale with David Thorne Wenzel, along with both Shock Rockets and Superstar, as seen on TV with Stuart Eminem and Wade Von Graubadger. Will all be released digitally this August through Image Comics. Quote unquote, I'm thrilled to be consolidating my creator-owned workbooks at Image, Busiek said with the announcement. Readers have been asking us to make these stories available again, so we're glad to have them all together at last, and in great company with the rest of the Image line. And as this article says here, that Astro City and Aerosmith were both published by DC, while the others were published by Image Comics through the now defunct imprint Guerrilla Comics around the turn of the century. I don't think it says when these are going to pop off. August 4th, specifically. There you go.
Next up, the upcoming second act of DC and Audible's Sandman adaptation will feature a wide array of new voices. New additions for the Sandman Act 2 include Jeffrey Wright, Regé, Jean Page,
sure,
Brian Cox, Emma Corrin, John Lithgow, David Tennant, Bill Nighy, Kristen Schaal, Kevin Smith, Aidan Turner, B.B. Newirth, Lilith, Adrian Lester, Miriam Margolyes, Arthur Darvill and Ray Porter, who will join the returning James McAvoy, Kat Dennings, Michael Sheen, and Andy Serkis. Precious. Along with this announcement, Audible confirmed that fans who want to catch up on Act 1 or who may have missed it initially can listen for free from July 22nd to October 22nd. Those who use Amazon Music can catch episodes 1 to 3, and those with Alexa devices can listen from August 3rd to 31st by saying, Alexa, read The Sandman. Interesting.
And congratulations to anybody who reads this who listens to this program after August 3rd and get their Alexas triggered by what Agent 70 just said.
Exactly. I was about to say mine didn't go off, so.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. There's some names involved with this. That's actually pretty cool if you're interested in that universe. Speaking of podcastery type things, Winston Duke to voice star as Bruce Wayne in Batman Unburied. So Winston Duke is headed from Wakanda to Gotham City. The Black Panther actor will voice star. I don't know why I say it like that, but okay, sure, I get it. In Batman Unburied, the upcoming Spotify podcast that hails from Dark Knight screenwriter David S. Goyer. Duke will star as Bruce Wayne, with Harry Potter actor Jason Isaacs joining as Alfred. You know who Alfred is, jeez. No other
I was
castings.
gonna say, how are you gonna say Harry Potter star Jason Isaacs? You know how many things Jason Isaacs has been in?
Right, especially recently. So I don't know. This is Hollywood Reporter, so don't.
I know. I'm just saying.
I know it doesn't. It never makes any sense how they choose what they do in these situations. So it's kind of funny. But at any rate, no other castings have been announced, but Spotify is sharing the new plot details about the podcast, which is described as a psychological thriller that dives into the mind of Bruce Wayne and features dark twists and classic Batman villains. And you can read the log line in this article if you so choose. There's no release date for the podcast, but it'll be one season just like pretty much any other of those type of things. Next.
All righty. Next up, longtime Justice League member and super friend Aquaman is the latest iconic DC hero to get the 100-page spectacular treatment to celebrate his 80th anniversary. This goes on sale August 31st to recognize the King of Atlantis' first appearance in November 1941's More Fun Comics number 73. There's a host of great creators on this. The cover price is going to be $9.99, along with a cardstock variant cover edition that will set you back another $1. Okay.
John really teases a Batman development that may change the DC universe forever. I am Batman writer John Ridley, excuse me. I kind of like that. That's funny how they're calling him that now, as opposed to 12 Years a Slave, John Ridley. But anyway, teased a number of coming shake-up within Gotham City in a pre-recorded appearance at the start of the Batman Fear State panel at Comic-Con at Home 2021. Quote unquote, I did want to take the opportunity to thank you, the fans, for all your support of Jace Fox in both Future State and Batman's Second Son. Who both of which he's written. Ridley said after apologizing for not being able to make a live appearance on the panel, I'm so excited to continue Jace's journey in the new ongoing series, I Am Batman. Jace begins his adventures in the heart of Fear State, which is going to be the comic event of the fall and next year. We have one more surprise for you that is going to change the Fox family and maybe the DC universe forever. And then this article goes into what Fear State is going to be about and talks about Future State, which we've already talked about in the past. Okay, cool. Next.
All right, and last but not least, the 2021 Eisner Award winners were announced earlier in the week at Comic-Con. So host Phil Lamar announced the winners at Comic-Con at Home. Just a couple of quick winners. The best short story went to When the Menopausal Carnival Comes to Town by Mimi Pond. Best single issue was Sports in Hell by Ben Passmore. Best continuing series is Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai. Shout out. The best limited series was Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen by Matt Fraction and Steve Lieber. Best new series was Black Widow by Kelly Thompson and Elena Casagrande. Cool. Best publication for early readers was Our Little Kitchen by Jillian Tamaki. Best publication for kids age 9 to 12 was Superman Smashes the Klan by Jean Luen Yang and Guri Huru. Best teen publication 13 to 17 was Dragon Hoops by Jean Luen Yang. Best humor publication was Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen by Fraction and Steve Lieber. The best anthology was Menopause, a comic treatment. The best reality-based work was Kent State, 4 Dead in Ohio by Backdurf. Okay. The best graphic memoir was The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Cartoonist by Adrian Tamine. Best graphic album, new, was Pulp by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Best graphic album was reprint was Seeds and Stems by Simon Hanselman. Best adaptation from another medium was Superman Smashes the Klan, adapted by Jean Luen Yang and Guri Huru. The best U.S. edition of international material was Goblin Girl by Moa Romanova, translation by Melissa Bowers. The best U.S. edition of international material Asia was Ramina by Junji Ito and translation by Jocelyn Allen. I'm looking to see if there's anything else cool here for me to read, because a lot of this stuff is... Oh, best writer. James Tynion IV for Something is Killing the Children, Batman, Department of Truth, etc. Best writer artist was Junji Ito for Romina, Venus in the Blind Spot from Viz Media. Okay. Best penciler inker or penciler inker team was Mike Allred for Bowie, Stardust, Ray Guns, and Moon Age Daydreams. Okay.
I was about to say.
Yeah, best cover artist Peach Momoko. Best coloring Laura Allred. Yeah, I'm just looking for names I recognize at this point now.
I know, but you said a couple of quick, and you're just pretty much reading off the list of winners.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. You know.
But congratulations to
I'm not
everybody.
reading all the nominations.
Well, no, I know, but still, it's fine. But yeah, there was some good stuff in here. Actually, I should do this. Well, me personally should do this a little bit more, because there's every time the Eisners come around, and you're just like, well, there's some stuff that you know and some stuff that you don't know anything about, because it either came out either in another fashion or it's just not in your purview. And some of the stuff I kind of really want to like dive into a little bit more heavier. Just kind of broaden my horizons a little bit more.
Sure.
So that's why sometimes we bring this up, because we bring this up because we know some names that are on this list, and sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. As apparently just the one thing I'm seeing here who didn't win, but it's good stuff all the way around and worth looking into if you're like want to broaden your comic and graphic novel horizons. Regardless, that is the end of the news section, except for the fact that I'm going to bring this up right now because I don't want to bring this up next week, and I forgot to put it in the show notes. There was a new Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer that released a couple of days ago, and it's out there if you are so inclined to check it out. It appears that there might be some familiar faces to the Ghostbusters franchise that may or may not that may make an appearance in this movie.
I was about to say, it's also spoiled by the toy releases.
Yes, also.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention that right away, but yeah, spoiled by the toy releases. So, we kind of know that some characters are going to be showing their faces that that we know.
Mm-hmm. And if they don't have it, there's a particular part of the trailer that if they don't have a toy for, I would be surprised if there wouldn't be one coming, because there was one particular part of the trailer where people were like, "Aw," or
"Oh yeah,"
"Aw," in another kind of way,
yeah,
given the nature of what was going on in that particular scene.
Exactly. So, all right. So before we get to our last ad read, I just wanted to cover a quick toy corner.
Oh yeah, hold on.
So, so I've gotten a couple of Marvel Legends in that I pre-ordered like many moons ago. Finally, So I mentioned this. I don't know if I showed this on the show yet, but I did get from the Villains Wave, the Marvel Legends Villains Wave, the new or retro Red Skull with the Zemnu head. It's actually a pretty cool figure. I thought I might regret getting this because I've gotten the Red Skull with the trench coat that came out many years ago with the Winter Soldier movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy to get this more kind of comic inspired version of the Red Skull.
Okay.
You know,
Nice.
green with the green jumpsuit.
Right. Right.
You know, and it comes with two heads, so which it's cool, and sets of hands so that he can actually grasp the cosmic cube that it comes with. It's not the Tesseract; it's the cosmic cube in the Marvel universe.
Thank you very much.
I got my Iron Heart, which is from that Iron Man line, so now I can put up at least 4 champions from on a display. You know, because now we have a Ms. Marvel, whatchamacallit, Kid Nova, a Miles, and now we have Ironheart. So basically just missing Vision
So that
for the
is
latest incarnation of the champions.
right. So that is the same one, right? Because the one that, because there or was there another version of Ironheart that came? Because I know I have one. I can't remember if it's that one or not. And as
Oh, I think you got this one.
yeah, that's
It's
what
the
I thought.
one, the Iron Man inspired armor. Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
like her original look.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that means they're gonna put out another one with her current, alien armor.
Right.
So, and last but not least, this is the one I was really looking forward to. It's really cool. I never thought we'd get a figure of this character, although they did do one in the previous, the Toy Biz Marvel Legends. They did do one. It's Yuriko Oyama, otherwise known as Lady Deathstrike.
Okay.
It's pretty cool, and I'm very, very happy to have this figure so that I can do some Wolverine little displays.
Mm-hmm.
And we only have, I believe, 3 Reavers so far. We have a Donald Pierce that came with the Hellfire Club set, and we have a Skullbuster that came as like not a random figure, but it was like one of those like kind of one-off figures. Like, why is this person here? But now we have 3 Reavers, and that's enough to put a little display together.
Yeah. There you go. If you
So that's it for Toy Corner for me.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure at some point there will probably be more Toy Corner action between one or both of us in the coming season. That being said, one last ad read, please.
You know what we read when it's late and everyone is tired? Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, etc. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And as we come to the close of another exciting episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles, we'd like to thank each and every one of you fine folks for coming out. We'll be back next week as per usual, I believe. Wait, next week is Suicide Squad. I don't know. Well, I don't think either one of us is going to see that in the theaters, but it is going to be on HBO Max, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
But that being the case, I don't know. It's going to be the 6th, so I don't think it's going to be out. Yeah, it's not going to be out by the time we record, so it'll be the week after for our impressions of that. So, still normal Comic Book Chronicles like per usual. That being said, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykats on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. I did actually post a couple of things fairly recently, so go check that out on CBCap's Instagram account if you so choose to. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Nerd on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com. In all his umbrella sites they're in. He might also be on that Vine replacement bite under Comic Reviews No Vowels. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris of this ish. You can also find him at CB Chron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at the Click Nation on Twitter. That's the KLIQNATION, all one word. Excuse me, theclicknation.com. But of course, you can definitely find him more often than not on Comic Book Resources, writing his face off at CBR.com. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Other Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You could also find this here podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcast, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And again, next week, same bat time, same bat channel, Thursday nights every week, 9:30-ish p.m. on recording live on both youtube.com/theclicknation or twitch.tv/comicbookchronicles. And yeah, with that, folks, like I said, thanks for coming out. We appreciate you being here. We will be back next week. And as we like to say, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Salute, mi familia.
Salute.
Salute.